This Council resumes the second reading debate on the Road Tunnels Government Amendments Bill 2024. Dr. Ben Chan, Chairman of the Bills Committee on the bill, will first address the Council on the committee's report. Dr. Ben Chan. President, as the Chairman of the Bills Committee on Road Tunnels Government Amendments Bill 2024, I now submit a report to the Council and present the salient points of the committee's deliberations. The bill seeks to amend the Road Tunnels Government Ordinance Cap 368 and its subsidiary legislation to extend the ordinance's application to the Tai Lam Tunnel after the government's takeover on the 31st of May 2025 and provide for new tolls in respect of the tunnel. Members are generally supportive of the bill and have put forward views on various issues. Members are concerned that population growth arising from the northern metropolis may result in tunnel congestion. The administration has responded that the proposed time-varying toll plan to be implemented after the takeover has thoroughly considered the current utilization rate and the traffic volume at the Tai Lam Tunnel and the future traffic growth in the Western and Northern New Territories. The Transport Department will closely monitor the changes in traffic conditions following the implementation of the time-varying toll plan and, if necessary, the Commissioner for Transport will make timely minor adjustments according to the mechanism. Some members opine that the government should examine whether there is room to reduce the tolls during the off-peak time slots and comprehensively review the tunnel's toll level after the full commissioning of Route 11 section between Yuen Long and North Lantau. A member has suggested that the administration should lower the Tai Lam Tunnel tolls to $40 during peak time slots and waive the toll if there is no congestion problem during off-peak and normal time slots. The administration has explained that even with the high tolls currently charged by the franchisee, the traffic volume has already reached 80% of the tunnel's capacity. Further reducing the toll or even waiving the toll will inevitably induce additional traffic, leading to congestion. The charging of time-varying tolls not only reasonably reflects the relationship between the toll levels and traffic flow, but also provides the government with the flexibility to introduce more flexible tolling arrangements. Under the user pays principle, the government needs to charge reasonable tolls to ensure the proper operation of the tunnels. The currently proposed off-peak toll of $18 for private cars is already a cost price, with little room for further downward adjustment. The administration will not consider waiving tolls during normal or off-peak time slots. On tolls for commercial vehicles, some members have pointed out that the extent of toll reduction for light goods vehicles or LGVs is smaller compared to other CVs. Given that most LGV owners are sole proprietors of small businesses, some members have suggested that the tolls should be reduced. Moreover, given the proximity of the tunnel to land boundary control points, the tolls for commercial vehicles during off-peak time slots, such as overnight periods, should be lowered to support the operations of the cross-boundary logistics industry. The administration has responded that by proposing an all-day uniform toll of $43 for CVs, which represents a reduction rate between 33% and 80%, it has taken into account the operating needs of the industries. As medium and heavy goods vehicles have a high loading and are more efficient in transporting goods, these types of vehicles will have a higher toll adjustment rate than LGVs. The operations of the logistics industry are largely dependent on when the goods needs to reach their destinations and have little to do with the tunnel tolls charged during different time slots. According to the administration, the trades generally consider that a fixed toll is better suited to their operational modes and needs. Members have noted that the new tolls for franchised buses will be adjusted to an all-day uniform toll of $43, representing a reduction of up to 80%. They thus suggested that bus companies be required to reduce fares on the concerned routes. Some members have also suggested the toll for taxis be reduced to $25, in line with the tolls for the 3 road harbour crossings. The administration has explained that when the government considered the fare increase applications from franchised bus operators at the end of November last year, it already took into account the financial impacts of the proposed time-varying plan on bus companies. The toll savings of each franchised bus operator will be deposited into the Franchised Bus Toll Exemption Fund, or the TEF. When a franchised bus operator is granted a fare increase, the magnitude of the increase can be offset through TEF, directly benefiting the public. Given that taxis are similar to private cars in terms of their travel patterns, occupation of road space, and passenger carrying efficiency, the administration considers it reasonable to set the taxi toll as the weighted average of the all-day tolls for private cars. Neither the Bills Committee nor the administration will propose any amendments to the bill. President, that concludes my report on behalf of the Bills Committee's work. The following are my personal views on the bill. Yuen Long, Tuen Mun, and Northern districts, the population there mainly rely on the Tai Lam Tunnel for traveling. For many years, the toll fee has been on the rise. There is an aspiration for reduction of toll fee or even free of charge usage of the tunnel. But we all understand that if the tunnel is free, more people will use the tunnel to go to the urban areas, and users of the Tuen Mun Highway will switch to the Tai Lam Tunnel. Let's say 25% of the drivers switch to the Tai Lam Tunnel. Will it be able to curb? We all want a toll reduction, but we don't want a congestion. The Yuen Long traffic network is fragile. The pork oil roundabouts always have congestion. Now the effect can spill over to its proximity. There is often congestion during peak hours in Yuen Long. Can it curb with additional traffic? In our deliberation, we were concerned about the balance between toll reduction and traffic congestion. That is a real problem. Now, before the bill was introduced, we have had some discussions with the government in this respect. We have also floated a toll-free proposal. The government gave us data in support of their position. That's why the DAB has been proposing a lower toll fee for non-peak time slots like the overnight time slots, so as to reduce the burden on users. The proposal was accepted by the government. During the course of deliberation, many proposals were raised. In the end, after balancing the feasibility, we have this final proposal, which has taken on board views and suggestions from members and political parties. We have to acknowledge that the Tai Lam Tunnel will be the major traffic artery of the northern metropolis. There will be significant population growth in the area. Traffic demand will also increase. There is great uncertainty. We need to be pragmatic and reasonable in dealing with the issue. Frankly speaking, without any new roads, if we only rely on Tai Lam Tunnel, congestion is inevitable. However, it takes time to build another tunnel. Say Route 11, which has been my concern. I'm worried about the progress. Now, Route 11 is being constructed. In the future, we need one more road for those living in New Territories East, but time and money is of concern. To share the traffic burden on Tai Lam Tunnel, we need Route 11. It can redirect traffic returning from the Western Corridor and also vehicles going from Tuen Mun to Kowloon. As it takes time to build Route 11, we ask the government to speed up with the progress. Afterwards, there would be a huge facelift to the transport network in New Territories East. We ask the government to conduct a comprehensive review on the toll level of the Tai Lam Tunnel. We have raised this on numerous occasions, and the government has promised to consider our proposal. This is what we have got from the government. Still, Thailand Tunnel and the future Route 11 alone are not enough. I've mentioned many times, park and ride is a must for the development of the Northern Metropolis. 4 years ago, I submitted a proposal for the government to build a park and ride interchange in the vicinity. However, the idea was not taken on board by the government. It is the time when we are deepening the planning of the Northern Metropolis. The government should make use of this opportunity to ensure that the infrastructure can be put in place in time. Otherwise, there would be congestion as the Thailand Tunnel because of the growth in population and traffic. Toll is a tool to discourage drivers from driving to urban areas. It is an adjustment tool, but it has huge impacts on livelihoods. Members of the council also want a lower toll fee, but we need to prevent congestion. Now, we support the government's takeover of the Thailand Tunnel and the bill. However, the governments need to adjust the toll level according to the volume of traffic and the social conditions. The government should review whether the toll plan is reasonable and whether more roadworks are needed. After the rationalization of traffic of the 3 tunnels, when there is congestion as the Western Harbour Crossing, an additional lane would be opened immediately. So I think the government can use the same mindset for Thailand Tunnel. So I hope today's discussion would provide some directions for the government's takeover plan and also the improvements plan for the network.
Mr. Jimmy, thank you, Deputy President. As you may remember, close to 2 years ago, we had the Western Harbour Crossing not having any vehicles traveling through that, while the 2 other harbour crossings would be very crowded. It is because the Western Harbour Crossing was very expensive. In December 2023, we had the traffic redistribution arrangement. I wouldn't say that there is no congestion at all in 2 other harbour crossings, but we have definitely seen larger traffic, and we have seen more traffic at the Western Harbour Crossing. Thailand Tunnel is often route that drivers would avoid because of the high cost. With the takeover of the government of the tunnel, people are expecting lower tolls. It says here that time-varying tolls would be adopted and the reduction of tolls would be amounting to 22 to 80%. We have in peak time slots $45 for private cars, normal time slots $30, off-peak time slots $18. So the reduction in tolls is 80%. I believe many drivers would now make use of Thailand Tunnel. Some actually say that you should provide no tolls at the tunnel, but then there may be some inadvertent impact. According to the TLB's figures, according to the analyses of the Transport Department, there will be additional traffic with further decrease in tolls. It will cause congestion at the tunnel. This is reasonable. If it is free, people would definitely use it, right? I think we should maintain our vision. With tolls, there are 2 principles to conform to. The overarching principle is to make sure there is proper traffic distribution. If we are causing congestion at a tunnel, that would be pointless. Thailand Tunnel is connected to Tin Khao Bridge and it is a route to the airport. If there is congestion in Tin Khao Bridge, it can cause serious disruption to the traffic. Mr. Christopher Hurst said earlier that when faced with a fiscal deficit, the government will try to develop new sources of government revenue and save costs. But then, even with that in mind, we need to make sure there is viability with finances. For public infrastructure, even if you're not charging fees, there's still cost. The cost is borne by the taxpayer, and I think there is a need to make sure we are making use of the cost recovery principle when charging tolls. Thank you. Mr. Lau Kwok Fan. Thank you, Deputy President. I welcome the government's proposal to decrease tolls upon takeover of the tunnel and the implementation of time-varying tolls. Thailand Tunnel is a connection between New Territories East, West, and North and the urban areas. It also affects the future plans of the Northern Metropolis and people's daily lives and commute. It also affects the logistics industry greatly. I understand the justifications given by the administration. There are three major principles adopted. They are trying to, upon takeover of the tunnel, while there should be traffic distribution, there shouldn't be congestion. It also shouldn't cause a heavier financial burden on road users, nor should it pose a heavier financial burden on the government. Let me now talk about my views. The government said before, upon takeover of the tunnel, the government would like to provide more affordable tolls. At peak time slots, the toll would be $45, and for off-peak time slots, it would be $18. The decrease is significant, but say for North District residents, Yuen Long or Tuen Mun residents, they have all along considered tolls at Thailand Tunnel to be very high. Upon takeover of the tunnel, the government has room to decrease tolls by a lot. Last year, I liaised with the TLB and the Transport Department, asking upon takeover of the tunnel whether tolls could be decreased significantly or maybe even for free. But say from New Territories to urban areas, say Shingmun or Lion Rock or Route 8, can we have tolls close to the $8 range? That's what I suggested. When the administration proposed the toll scenario, they mentioned the user's pay principle as justification. If we have significant adjustments to the toll scenario, it may cause congestion, especially during peak hours. We may not be able to operate the tunnel on a cost recovery basis, resulting in an operating loss. I have some observations on these issues. During the peak hours, the government has given some analyses. I myself have some reservations about the analyses provided. The Transport Department said in particular that for many of the vehicles taking the Thailand Tunnel, they would be large vehicles or commercial vehicles. But then I understand that the policies between Shenzhen and Hong Kong would have the traffic going in the east, stay in the east, and those in the west staying in the west. So cargo traffic would not be going to Huanggang control point. They would just stay in the Shenzhen Bay and Lianchang and Hengyun Wei area. And they would take the nearby route for convenience. It is unlikely that they will go to Thailand. So when deriving the model, I think that there are some doubts that the Transport Department might have overestimated the traffic. But I think different people would derive different estimates. I understand that there should be more prudent analyses at this moment with this uncertainty. Therefore, I support the government's analyses. But the second justification about the users pay principle in terms of public finance, how should we treat such infrastructure? How should we regard this? Whether we should treat it as a free facility for the public or whether we should be charging. But then in Longshan Tunnel, Tuen Mun Chek Lap Kok Link, or another tunnel, these roads are provided to the public for free. Why is it that we are charging tolls and relatively high tolls for Tai Lam Tunnel? What roads would have fees charged? What roads are available for free? What roads are investments? I think the government should explain clearly their principles on how they regard different infrastructure. I believe for some roads, we have constructed them with a cost. We shouldn't really think about the users pay principle because we have already paid a cost in that regard for it to make contributions. On alleviating citizens' burden, we should have the tolls as low as possible. But then when we think about the three principles, one, to make sure upon takeover there will not be congestion, we should remain prudent. But I think the government can really think about at different times, in different directions, we have a different amount of flow. Say we do not have as much traffic in the morning from Kowloon to New Territories. On the other hand, in the other direction, we will have much more traffic. So should we adopt $45 for both directions? We can definitely review that. At panel meetings before or on other occasions, I mentioned at 7:15 in the morning, we have people commuting, but we also have people commuting at other hours. You have set peak time slots to make sure there is significant price difference, to make sure there is traffic distribution. But if the peak time slot is too long, people think that they will not be able to take advantage of the time slot anyway, so that they would just go with their usual travel patterns. So there are some unintended consequences here. I hope with Tai Lam Tunnel you understand that there is a difference between this and the 3 harbor crossings. People may not want to get up early to take advantage of the lower tolls. So please note this. As Dr. Chan Han-pan said, to alleviate citizens' burden and not to cause serious congestion, we should take forward the development of the Northern Metropolis Route 11, the Northern Metropolis Highway, etc. When we have a better traffic condition, we can lower the tolls to alleviate citizens' burden. During the Bills Committee meeting, I actually said that we can't tell unless we have actually started the operations of the tunnel. And I understand they have a model, but then upon implementation, if the facts prove that we are right, I hope the government will heed our advice and lower the tolls and adjust the time slot as appropriate. I support the amendment bill, but I urge the administration to review as soon as possible, say in 6 months, with data collected and report to the council. If it proves us right, please heed our advice. Thank you, President.
Mr. Chan Siu-Hong, Thank you, Deputy President. I speak in support of the Road Tunnels Government Amendment Bill 2024. I support the second reading and third reading of the bill. Tai Lam Tunnel is the main traffic and logistics arteries between the New Territories West and North and the urban areas. Now, by the opportunity of the takeover of the tunnel, the government will reset the tunnel toll. I thank the government for accepting our proposal to implement a time-varying toll and use toll as a tool to redirect traffic, ensuring the principles of users pay, efficiency first, and cost recovery are fulfilled. Now, the proposed toll plan is a balance between all policy objectives. It is reasonable. On the other hand, there is not much dispute on using toll as a tool to manage the traffic volume during peak hours. I support the government to lower the toll level to unleash the full capacity of the Tai Lam Tunnel to redirect traffic from the Tuen Mun Road and Tolo Highway, while ensuring smooth traffic of the tunnel. Now, based on the principles of users pay, efficiency first, and cost recovery, there are some charges during peak time slots, and I'm not against that. The toll plan has taken into consideration of the traffic data and also the utilization rates of the tunnel. It has also taken into consideration more economic activities with the development of the northern metropolis. It has also taken into account the volume and capacity ratio of the tunnel. I agree with the plan. A full waiver of fee will not achieve the intended effect to maintain smooth traffic of the Tai Lam Tunnel. When there is congestion, the purpose of the Tai Lam Tunnel will not be served. It will also add to the burden of the nearby roads. Now, 32% of the users of Tai Lam Tunnel are goods vehicles, and they are crucial for economic activities in Hong Kong. Whether there is more room for more drastic toll slash and reducing the toll for CVs during off-peak time slots, I think there is some room to maneuver. The government has pledged to closely monitor the changes in traffic after implementation of the time-varying toll plan. If necessary, the Commissioner for Transport can propose minor adjustments according to the scope of the adjustment mechanism. I suggest the government try out the proposed toll plan first, and then when more data is gathered from various time slots, a review and adjustments can take place. Now, in last July, when the proposal was submitted to the panel on transport, I raised questions on the different toll level as normal time slots as well as the off-peak and peak time slots. I wonder how the toll was set. I also asked the government to let the data explain themselves. Now, the government can achieve various effects by a different combination of toll and time slots. So I suggest the government to analyze the data arising from various combinations to gauge the toll's effects on the capacity of the tunnel and also the carrying capacity of the tunnel, and use data to garner support from the public. Now, the tunnel is the major artery between New Territories West, North, and the urban areas. It is a major route for the logistics and transport industries. In setting a new toll, I've urged the government to take into account the operational needs of the industries and consider a lower toll for commercial vehicles, especially those in the logistics trade. Now, the government has proposed a $43 uniform all-day toll for CVs. The reduction ranged from 33 to 80%, much higher than the 22% cut for private vehicles during peak hours. However, taxis enjoyed a reduction rate of 52% for their toll. The reduction for CVs are not that outstanding. Now, I wasn't a member of the Bills Committee because of various reasons. However, I raised concerns whether there is room for lower toll for CVs during peak time slots. For example, according to the government's model, if we cut the toll for CVs by half during the peak hours, will it lead to congestion in the Thailand tunnel? That's the question I ask. I asked the government to analyze scientific data to consider whether there is more room for further reduction of toll and analyze the trend. I suggest the government to incorporate whether different tolls can be charged for varying types of vehicles, for example, MGVs and LGVs, in the review exercise. I welcome the government's response that it will take an open attitude to review the toll arrangements and continuously monitor the change in traffic volume in new territories west and north. Now, with the commissioning of the Route 11 in the future, what will be the effect on the transport network in new territories? The government has promised to consider that as well. Now, the government would like to attract more CVs to switch to this tunnel where they can save time and cost. Now, from Yuen Long City from the Yuen Long area to Tsuen Wan, by using Thailand tunnel, it can save a journey of 10 kilometers, and the fuel cost saved can offset the higher toll. There will also be a safe journey of 10 minutes as well. It shows that using Thailand tunnel is cost-effective. I hope the government would step up publicity to encourage the trade to use this more effective road. Now, after the takeover of the Thailand tunnel, the HKE toll service will be implemented. Now, the government should draw reference from the rationalization plan of the 3 tunnels to ensure that there will be no hiccups. Deputy President, I don't support the amendments to be moved by Mr. Michael TIEN. By drastically lowering the toll fee or even waiving the toll, it will lead to congestion in the tunnel. The additional traffic flow will spill over to the nearby network. 1.8 million people in the district will be affected. Those using public transport will suffer a loss, and also the CVs will lose a convenience access to airports and the container terminal. It is not in line with public interest. Now, with the $100 billion large fiscal deficit, the 3.8-kilometer Thailand tunnel will come with a huge maintenance cost. Now, the CSA will lead to a $270 million large loss. It goes against the principle of fiscal prudency and also the principle of users pay and efficiency first. Any amendment will have far-reaching impacts. We should adhere to empirical data. The government's toll plan is not perfect. However, the Bills Committee has endorsed the principles adopted by the government. Now, this CSA out of the blue is not in line with public interest. I support the government's amendments bill, the second reading and third reading. Ms. Connie Lam, thank you, Deputy President. Now, on the Road Tunnels Government Amendment Bill 2024, it is about the toll plan for Thailand Tunnel. This has an impact on the traveling of residents in new territories west and east. It will also affect the efficiency of our entire transport network. So I support the government to adopt a more conservative plan and improve it considering the actual implementation. Everyone would like to have a lower toll, especially for non-peak time slots. If we can use the tunnel for free, it will definitely encourage traveling and more economic activities. Now, with such a high toll level, how can we encourage nighttime economy? However, the government's proposal has balanced 2 factors. One is the long-standing issue of congestion at Two Moon Road. 2 is the possible congestion at Thailand Tunnel because of more traffic. Now, I support the government's conservative plan. On the other hand, we need to do a rethink on the toll plans for our road tunnels. It seems that it is not very consistent. There are 21 tunnels managed by the government, but there are different toll plans for them. You may say that this is because of their different geographical locations. However, different principles are adopted. Some tunnel comes with a toll fee, but some are maximizing the profit. Despite different tolls, we need a consistent principle. For example, are we striving for cost recovery or smooth traffic? With more and more road infrastructure, if we don't have a unified principle, it will make drivers confused. I urge society to focus on the long-term plan. We need a set of unified standard for toll plans for our tunnels, and we need regular review to even the toll between the tunnels. Now, may I suggest the government to make reference to the country's practice? On public holidays, we can waive the toll charges for all tunnels in Hong Kong to encourage people to stay here to consume and spend money. Thank you.
Mr. Michael Look, Madam Deputy, I speak on behalf of the FTU in support of the Road Tunnels Government Amendment Bill 2024. Well, if you want smooth traffic without having to pay any tolls, that will be very difficult. The Thailand Tunnel uses the franchise of build, operate, transfer. The merit was obvious. The government did not have to pay, but there are downsides. Because of this approach, that is build, operate, transfer, there is a catch. The conglomerate wants to make money. As a result, there were a number of raises in toll levels. It only took 3 years for the tunnel to be completed. In 1998, it was commissioned. For taxis, it's $15. For goods vehicles, it's $30, $40, and $30, $40, and $50. For private cars nowadays, it's $58. Goods vehicles is from $40 to $70. The rate of increase has reached about 200 or 300%. When people use the Thailand Tunnel, they complain. But you need to pay to save time. So if you live in Yuen Long, North District, and Tin Shui Wai, they would rather spend more time to use the Tuen Mun highways. Well, this undermines the function of diverting traffic of the Thailand Tunnel. As a result, there was congestion, there was a higher emission in relation to the Tuen Mun highway. So as a result, bus fares using the Thailand Tunnel is a lot more expensive than buses going through the Tuen Mun highway, and it's a burden to commuters. For anti-West residents, they have spent a lot of time and money to travel. We hope that the government will make use of the chance of taking over the Thailand Tunnel to slash toll levels so that the tunnel will play its function of traffic diversion and alleviate traffic congestions at the Tuen Mun highway. Well, now there is the proposed time-varying toll. There is a significant reduction in toll levels between 20 to 80%. So it will effectively alleviate the financial burden on drivers and commuters. The government advocates efficiency first, as well as smooth traffic. We agree with these principles. Well, congestions at interchanges near Port Oil will have a rippling effect. People will not use road traffic, they will use railway services. This will create a hegemony of the MTRCL. The government said that they will have to recover cost. The government charges the high first vehicle registration fee, vehicle license, as well as a fuel charge. And these can go towards a subsidy of operation and construction of infrastructure. In the budget 2024-25, first registration tax is about $8 billion. Fixed penalty tickets about $1 billion. Fuel charges about $3 billion. Together with vehicle license charges, that adds another $400 million. So altogether $17 billion. Currently, 9 tunnels are free. That will be the Tuen Mun Chek Lap Kok tunnel. There was a toll plaza, but just before it was commissioned, the government announced that there won't be any tolls charged. So, in relation to the $17 billion, the revenue comes from vehicles related revenues. Maintenance of roads and tunnels are about $2.6 billion. For the Tai Lam Tunnel, the government did not have to pay because of BOT. If the government said they had to recover maintenance and operation costs, according to the government, the operating expenditure of the Tai Lam Tunnel is just about for $400 million. However, under their proposal, they charge $720 million. That means every year they make a profit of $320 million. Of course, it's a drop in the ocean if you want to use that to address the $10 trillion of a deficit. But if you want to recover cost, that is another matter. I said that it is unfair to anti-West residents. They are not rich. Why do you ask them to subsidize infrastructures of other areas? It is the view of the FTU that the basis of toll levels of anti-West is already high, so there should be a cut as far as possible. About 4 hours, 15 minutes every day there will be a peak hour. According to figures in 2023 for Tai Lam Tunnel, the capacity is about 5,400 one way. Apart from the morning peak from 7 to 9 a.m., with a vehicle flow of about 4,300, other times it's not the same. In the evening peak, there are about 2,500 vehicle trips. There may be an increase in 2024, but it will not in any way reach capacity or saturation. Will the government shorten the charge for peak time? I shorten the duration of peak time or reduce the toll levels, say $18, just like normal times. Otherwise, it won't be effective in traffic diversion. Well, if it's only a difference of $18, people continue to travel during peak hours. In relation to Tai Lam Tunnel, please draw reference from Tay Kane's tunnel. Function and specifications are similar. It's also an artery for new territories. Please draw reference from the toll levels there. For taxis and medium-sized goods vehicles, please charge $20, $24, and $28. to alleviate the financial burden on the transport sector, which in turn will boost Hong Kong's economy. Well, the new proposal will come into effect on the 31st of May. I do hope that the government will be data-oriented and pragmatic. Please review the toll levels in a year. If there is no traffic congestion, then there should be further reduction while keeping the principles of cost recovery and efficiency first. Well, the lowered fees is a form of compensation to anti-West residents having to travel far away and having to pay through their nose for toll fees. There should be vision in the planning of population growth in the northern metropolis. The construction of Route 11 should be expedited. In this way, we don't have to worry about population growth in northern metropolis. Congestion fee charging is not a solution. The direction of the bill is correct. Mr. Michael TIEN will move amendments. Is an option for us to ponder whether there is any chance of further reduction. How do we gauge his principles? I will elaborate during the committee stage. I so submit. Professor Chan Man Kwong. On the 31st of May this year, the government will finally take over the Tai Lam Tunnel. It's something that we have been waiting for a very long time. I speak in support of the bill. I mentioned in the Bills Committee that I hope the new toll levels will meet a number of objectives, that is, reduce traffic accidents, improvement in efficiencies, as well as better connection with port control points, and I will elaborate. First, I think the government should step up publicity, especially to commercial vehicle drivers, so that it will make a wise choice. With the Tai Lam Tunnel, the Tuen Mun Highway are the main arteries. They link with Huang Guang port control points as well as other areas. And this will be using this will be in line with government's planning of goods traveling in the same direction. For Guangdong East, the traffic will mainly use Huanggang, Hengyun Wai. I think the government should seize the opportunity of the taking over of the Tai Lam Tunnel to ensure that commercial vehicles will use Tai Lam Tunnel so as to alleviate traffic pressure on Tolo Highway as well as Tuen Mun Highway. I use Tuen Mun Highway a lot. In the past, I traveled during the morning peak. I saw goods vehicles and buses traveling one after another. This is a nuisance to residents. This will be a good opportunity to alleviate the traffic congestion problems at Tuen Mun Highway. Under the proposal, toll fees for taxis will be halved. For commercial vehicles, for goods vehicles, will be about 40 to 45%. The government has to take into account the issue of perception so that toll levels should not be too low. I incline to support the government's proposal. Of course, if necessary, there should be a review. The government should step up publicity to commercial vehicle drivers, asking them to use Tai Lam Tunnel to alleviate traffic of Tuen Mun Highway. If you use LC map, if you travel from Yuen Long train station to Ting Kau, if you use Tuen Mun Highway, is 15 minutes. But if you use Tai Lam Tunnel, it's 15 minutes. But if you use Tuen Mun Highway, it takes 28 minutes. So the journey time will double that of Tai Lam Tunnel. If you're smart, then you will realize that it's worth paying $43 to save fuel and time. The government should use easy-to-understand ways to publicize the merits of using Tai Lam Tunnel in terms of time, fuel, and cost savings. In relation to private car drivers, the government should monitor the morning and the morning peak and the transitional periods. The government should conduct a review after a while. There will be time-varying tolls for private cars. The government proposes that for the morning peak will last 2 hours and 30 minutes. That is 7:45 to 9:45, and in the evening is 1 hour 45 minutes. So altogether is 4 hours 15 minutes, 18% of the whole day. We're looking at the approach in 2023. The morning peak is 2 hours 23, evening is 2.5 hours, so altogether 5 hours 15 minutes. Comparing these two approaches, the peak times are the same. Mr. Ben Chen mentioned that for Tai Lam Tunnel, traffic is mostly after 8 a.m. But now the peak time starts at 7:15. As a result of this, drivers will not travel earlier. This will undermine the function of the Tai Lam Tunnel as traffic diversion. I asked the government should adjust the morning peak, transition period, and the distribution of different time slots. I so submit to support the bill.
Dr. Tick-Shiyun. Residents have all along been plagued by traffic congestion. They also face high costs in traffic. They have inadequate traffic infrastructure. They have limited options. Their living quality is seriously affected. As a major road in New Territories, Tuen Mun Road has all along been plagued by congestion, and there are often accidents. We often have a high volume to capacity ratio on Tuen Mun Road. We have a long queue, and it has lengthened the commute of citizens. There are also other public transport options in the area, but their capacity is almost at its fullest. Say for the West Rail, the utilization rate during peak hours is over 100%. Citizens have to wait for multiple trains before they can get on. With further population intake and the eventual increase in population in the area, we still have inadequate public transport infrastructure. It seems that the government did not practice advanced planning to ensure there is adequate infrastructure to meet the public demand. All along New Territories West, residents have made multiple suggestions, including lowering the tolls of Tai Lam Tunnel to have more options in ferry services and have more bus routes in order to alleviate traffic in the area. Mr. Tian proposed some amendments to lower the tolls of Tai Lam Tunnel. This is only fair to the New Territories West residents. That's why I support the amendments proposed by Mr. Michael TIEN. He suggests to have the tunnel used for free for road users during non-peak hours. This is beneficial to all. With the tunnel available free, there will be more vehicles making use of the Tai Lam Tunnel, it will help with traffic distribution. It should alleviate congestion on other roads. This will also help enhance satisfaction of the public. This is a way to meet public expectations and would give an impression of fairness. The government is worried that if the tunnel is available for free, it will significantly increase the traffic in the area. It will also result in a significant decrease in government revenue, causing a burden on the government. Mr. Tien's proposals, however, would help distribute traffic to other roads, even with a higher traffic volume. As long as we can alleviate pressure on the whole network, this is beneficial. In fact, in Oslo of Norway, during non-peak hours, after they have made tunnel available for free, there is indeed increased traffic, but then it has alleviated congestion on urban roads. It has helped enhance the capacity of the road network, essentially. Traffic management should have a focus on systematic management rather than management of a particular tunnel. If we can have more people using the Tai Lam Tunnel, it will actually help alleviate the burden on other roads. The government has all along emphasized that the decrease in government revenue would increase social costs. But I would say this as a form of public infrastructure. Tunnels are a form of public services. We should have regard to social efficiency when assessing its value, such as lowering of logistical costs and enhancing fairness, providing the public with accessibility. We have not seen any disputes with some roads being made available for free, and there has not been any objection from the government. So for public roads, say Queen's Road and Nathan Road, should we charge them because they have really busy traffic? We shouldn't only charge Tai-Scan tunnel users. We need to do other things, say trimming down on the civil service establishment, cutting civil service pay in order to tackle the tight fiscal position, rather than otherwise charging higher tolls. I so submit. Mr. Lam Chun Sing. With the traffic distribution of 3 harbor crossings, we had tolls increase for the harbor crossing in Hong Kong. We have now tolls that will be lowered at Tai Lam Tunnel, and it should alleviate traffic on Tuen Mun Road. But is this really a good thing? Will there be unfairness that results from it? We will have tolls for commercial vehicles being $43. For taxis, it would be $28. Right now, it is $58, and it will be decreased to, as I said earlier, $28. It is a 50% reduction. But then, for commercial vehicles, it will only have a 30% reduction. Why is there a differential treatment for taxis and commercial vehicles? A similar situation happened for harbor crossings. We have lower tolls for taxis from $70 to $25 for the Western Harbor crossing. But for commercial vehicles, it's just from $80 to $50. The reduction is less than that for taxis. And for the harbor crossing, we have tolls increase from $15 to $50 for the Hong Kong harbor crossing. So with the net addition, there is really no change for commercial vehicles. So for many light goods vehicle drivers, they are sole proprietors, and we have a bad situation in the logistics industry at the moment. They often have to compete with larger companies as well. It's hard for them to transfer the burden to someone else. They have no choice but to bear the burden themselves. We have talked about whether the government should adopt the cost recovery principle. It is arguable. For some tunnels, there are no tolls. The government wouldn't say that they are trying to recover costs for the tunnels that have tolls. The government will often emphasize that they're adopting the cost recovery principle. I think we are trying to serve the public here. So the cost recovery principle should not be the only or the main justification. Otherwise, we need to charge fees for many roads. In fact, we have made multiple suggestions to the government for the budget consultation. We need to make sure we are distributing traffic. If it is not going to distribute traffic, we should lower the tolls, especially for commercial vehicles. I hope that 1 year after implementation, we will review the initiative. If there is more capacity, we should lower the tolls for commercial vehicles. I so submit.
Mr. Kitson Yang. Thank you, President. The franchise of the Tainan Tunnel will expire at the end of May this year, and then the government will take it back. And following that, there will be lower tolls to varying degrees depending on the vehicle type. For private cars, it will be $45. Normal time slot, $30. Off-peak hours, $18. Sundays and public holidays, $18. For motorcycles, their rate will be at 40% of the private car rate. For taxis and other commercial vehicles, there will be a flat rate. $28 for taxis, $43 for other commercial vehicles. Lower tolls are welcome. But then for private cars, for weekday peak hour rate, there are $5 more than the Cross Harbor Tunnel, and also higher than the other road harbor crossings. So we need to align the rates with the Eastern Harbor Crossing and the Cross Harbor Tunnel. Now, with the new toll levels, we will be getting $780 million per year, and then you minus a certain amount for the costs. The VC ratio will go up to 0.99, but will that be for sure? We don't know yet. Once the VC ratio reaches 1, you will reach saturation point. So the government will be making $300 million from the Thailand Tunnel in terms of net profit. The government has claimed that it wanted cost recovery. If that's the case, let's have the new tolls for a year. If there is no huge change in the traffic flow, meaning the VC ratio doesn't reach 0.99, can we reduce the tolls so that the taxis tolls will be aligned with the rates for the 3 road harbor crossings? Now, for the off-peak hours at night, can we slash those tolls? That won't lead to congestion. That won't lead to a major burden on the government's finances, but that will contribute to people's sense of well-being. Now, for Yuen Long to North Lantau section, that section will open in 2033. That will take pressure off the Thailand Tunnel. So in the long run, we need a regular review mechanism for the tolls. For Two Moon Road and Tolo Highway, traffic jam is common during the peak hours. For Thailand Tunnel, there is capacity to absorb some of the traffic from Two Moon Road and Tolo Highway. So this means more government publicity is needed. Now, after you factor in the cost and petrol prices, Thailand Tunnel will be a better option than the other 2 routes, so that will mean more efficiency. Once the government takes back the Thailand Tunnel, there will be 6 tunnels under the government's control. I have been advocating a package approach to the tolls. Say you take current tunnel with the Cross Harbor Tunnel. So you pair up the land tunnels and the Cross Harbor crossings. If more people use a certain pair, you can adjust the tolls accordingly so that you are diverting or channeling motorists to certain tunnels, and that way you can spread out the traffic across different tunnels. So can I invite the government to explore this idea? Now, I want to comment on Mr. Michael TIEN's amendment. I support his direction. His direction is to create greater benefits for the public after the government takes back the tunnel. This is in line with my direction too, but for Mr. Michael TIEN's overall toll plan, I do have my reservations. Based on the government's current plan, the government will be making $300 million per year, but based on Mr. Michael TIEN's plan, the government will be getting $100 or so million, and you will be losing, meaning you'll be running a deficit of $200 million. The problem with the Thailand tunnel is that you cannot just make it free of charge. You have to charge a reasonable toll. Now, given our current fiscal position and the principle of cost recovery, without making this tunnel cost recovery, and if we have to pay for the operation from our fiscal coffers, that won't be sustainable. So I support this bill. I want to say sorry to Mr. Michael TIEN, I cannot support his amendment. Mr. Kenneth Falk. I support this bill, the Road Tunnels Government Amendment Bill 2024. This bill is a matter of concern to the community. People have different views about the proposed toll levels for users. People welcome toll-free tunnels, but when we make a decision, we must have the big picture in mind. We must strike a balance. We have to balance between different factors. Now, we can look at the financial implications. Overall, the tolls will be lower with the government's plan. The reduction ranges between 22 to 80%. So that's the government's response to people's expectations. Many people will benefit. For the government, now it shouldn't be competing with the community for profits, but we cannot just make everything free of charge. Now, the user pays principle is the fair approach. When you charge a toll that's below the cost, you affect the financial sustainability of the tunnel, and you end up having to cut back on other public services. Given our fiscal position, that's not something we want to see. Now, on the traffic flow, based on the government's modeling, as we can see in the bill, there has been an in-depth and balanced consideration to reach the best redistribution effect. Let's look at the rationalization plan for the 3 road harbor crossings. For Eastern Harbor Crossing and Cross Harbor Tunnel, traffic fell by 8 to 10%. The traffic queue also shortened by 1 kilometer or half a kilometer. For the Western Harbor Crossing, the traffic volume went up by 16%. So we're more evenly spreading out the traffic across the 3 road harbor crossings. So that plan worked well and in line with our expectation. That means the government's projection is well considered and credible. So for this bill, I believe the projection will be accurate and we will see redistribution of traffic. An unduly low toll may lead to congestion at the Thailand tunnel. In that case, people won't be able to access a tunnel with less congestion for a higher toll, and that will be bad. Amending a bill has to be responsible, and this needs to be a well-considered approach. This is not a matter to be taken lightly. An unduly low toll may require a future adjustment. We need to keep a certain amount of profits as buffer, and that only makes sense. Of course, as the government has promised, the government will keep an eye on how the traffic flow will change under the new plan, and the tolls may be adjusted in the future so that we can reduce the congestion and also take pressure off people's finances in terms of the transport fare given the future plans about the northern metropolis. I believe the government has struck a balance between affordability and financial sustainability, so I support this bill. I so submit. Thank you, President.
Mr. Michael TIEN, President, NT-West and NT-North have been paying high tunnel tolls. Finally, the government is going to take back Tai Lam Tunnel. But unfortunately, despite tolls having been lowered, tolls are still expensive. For road infrastructures wholly owned by the government, that is, tunnels and bridges, in principle, they should be made free, apart from using tolls to control traffic flow, to prevent traffic congestion. The government should improve the infrastructures after collecting tax from citizens. The government all along hasn't had many principles in relation to tunnel tolls. Some tunnels are toll-free, whereas in some tunnels, well, the government is making profit or making loss. Tumon Chak Lap Kok Link, Chang Kwan Lam Tin Link, there is no traffic congestion, so they are toll-free. There are 5 toll tunnels: Aberdeen Tunnel, Tuscane Tunnel, Lion Rock Tunnel. The principle of user pay is adopted. The government may make money or may lose. Without traffic congestion, the government is earning $300 million or so. Regarding the construction cost, the government didn't pay any cent. Regarding the 4 newest railways, well, I stand corrected. The 4 tunnels, Central Wan Chai Bypass, Tumon Chak Lap Kok Link, Chang Kwan No Lam Tin Tunnel, their expenditure ranges from $36 billion and $4.48 billion. For Tai Lam Tunnel, the government didn't spend any single cent on it. Now the government will take over the tunnel and will earn $300 million or so. Some people say that tunnels should be made free out of political reasons. Well, I'm not going to make any conjecture in this regard. Some people say that the government is in the red, so the government needs to earn more money. If this logic goes, shouldn't the government impose tolls on all tunnels when the government is in the black again? Should all tunnels in Hong Kong be made free? Will the future terms of the government be held accountable? I don't think this argument holds water. So Roundtable thinks the same theory should be applied to Tai Lam Tunnel. It should be made toll-free. Unless making it toll-free will lead to traffic congestion, then tunnel tolls should be imposed. Now morning and evening peak hours from NT-West and NT-North, traffic will build up at Teng Kau Bridge, and there will be traffic congestion. So charging tolls at peak hours to reduce traffic congestion at Teng Kau Bridge, this is reasonable. I support it. That's why I didn't make any amendment to the tunnel tolls in this regard. Roundtable requests in morning peak hours in relation to southbound traffic towards Kowloon, private cars will be charged. Other than these time slots, it should be made free. For northbound traffic towards Yuen Long, tolls will be charged during the afternoon peak, and that is in line with the overall principle of traffic diversion. The VC ratio, that is a volume and capacity ratio, is used to measure traffic congestion. This is an acceptable yardstick. 0.86 and 0.77 in non-peak and peak hours. And that is a far cry from the figures of 1.2. So imposing a whole day toll is not reasonable. Roundtable is against this proposal. Yuen Long, including Kam Tin and Tin Shui Wai, has a total of 617,000 population, 2,530,000 residents. Tuen Mun Highway traffic congestion every day. For Tai Lam Tunnel, there's no traffic on the road. So how will the government be able to explain the situation to a total of 1.2 million residents? I've been in close liaison with officials. We just talked on the phone this morning. I've also heard from many members of the public. With the principle of users pay, recovering the operating costs is a generally more acceptable proposal. So if the government's proposal is just to recover costs and claims that it has nothing to do with the fiscal deficit, then the argument is substantiated. But then this proposal allowed the government to make profits of $320 million, and that is at the expense of the benefits of Yuen Long and Kam Tin residents. I cannot agree with this principle. The government said that according to my proposal, there will be traffic congestion during peak hours. So I know officials only took into account the additional traffic as a result of lower tolls in relation to taxi traffic. But then the government didn't take into account the traffic flow in relation to private cars. Those who would like to pay less will go to another tunnel. For those using the Tai Lam Tunnel, will not change their commuting patterns or time because of cost concerns. I don't agree with this assumption. For those who would like to avoid peak hours and go to the Tai Lam Tunnel, a citizen will be able to save $80 to $90 per day. And I believe this is appealing enough to most members of the public. But this was not factored in the model. Some private cars will leave home later in order to enjoy toll-free periods. And there will be a significant reduction of 80% in relation to the revenue of Tai Lam Tunnel, and there will be a loss of $270 million. Let's not talk about repair costs. Are these figures sustainable? Well, I'm none the wiser. Some members said there was ample discussion in the Bills Committee. There was consensus. Now there is committee stage amendment, and a member is being not responsible. I want to ask this member whom I look up to. In the Bills Committee, I made it very clear. But after the Bills Committee, the discussion ended. I would be irresponsible if I were not going to move this amendment. President, do you agree with me? Because of the aforesaid reasons, I will claim a division in relation to the second reading. I will definitely vote against this proposal. There are many arguments of the government that I agree with. I'm being rational, and I will explain the details of my amendment in a moment. I so submit. Thank you, President. Mr. Robert Lee. I support the bill. The government will take back Tai Lam Tunnel to lower tolls to reduce pressure on Hong Kong in relation to traffic congestion. There will also be a reduction in the cost of the traffic industries. I'd like to talk about a positive impact of the new toll plans and the increase in the public coffers as a result of securitizing bonds. Using private cars as an example, tolls range between $18 and $45. At present, toll stands at $58, and the drop ranges between 22% and 69%. For commercial vehicles, uniform toll $43, and there will be a reduction of 33 to 80%. The toll plan will reduce pressure on Tai Lam Tunnel, and there will be a traffic diversion effect of 5%. For the busiest hour in the morning, through Tuen Mun Road to the urban area, there will be a reduction of 300 vehicles. Under the new toll plan, the government is expected to collect $720 million from tunnel tolls of Tai Lam Tunnel. And I believe the new toll plan will meet with the tunnel management needs. There will also be a reduction of the operating cost of the traffic industries. I hope that the government will keep a close watch on the traffic in new territories of West and North. There should be regular adjustments and reviews of the toll plans. In relation to the securitization of tunnel tolls, the government should take stock of the previous experience of 5 tunnels and 1 bridge. The government should review cash flow, and by way of securitization, bonds should be issued to increase government revenue. There will be a reduction of pressure on the public coffers. According to the government figures, for the 3 road harbor crossings, annual revenue stands at $3.7 billion. For Tai Lam Tunnel, the revenue stands at $720 million. So the total revenue will stand at $4.4 billion. $1.5 billion of 5 tunnels and 1 bridge, a total of $17.6 billion of securities or bonds will be able to be issued. We need to enhance the level of participation of securities companies. Regarding Mr. Michael TIEN's amendment, I have reservation. The government estimates the amendment will lead to traffic congestion in Tai Lam Tunnel, and the annual revenue will also decrease from the original proposal of $7.2 billion, well, $720 million to $130 million. And there will be over $270 million of operating deficit, and this is against the principle used by the government.
Dr. Johnny thank you, President. The franchise of the Tai Lam Tunnel will expire in May this year. The government has proposed new toll plans. For private cars during peak time slots, the toll will be $45, and during normal time slots, the toll will be $30, and for taxi, it will charge an all-day uniform toll. I support this proposal to control traffic volume and make sure smooth traffic at the Tai Lam Tunnel. We have this time-varying toll plan. I think this is going to work, and I believe members of the public will accept this proposal. However, some people still find the tolls too high and hope that there will be room for the government to reduce the tolls. I asked during the Bills Committee meeting whether the cost could be lowered. The government has taken back all these tunnels. I wonder if the government can further reduce the tolls to ease the burden of the logistics industry. I believe the government can actually further reduce the tolls. At the same time, the government should explore the feasibility of electronic road pricing scheme to, in a macro manner, manage traffic flow instead of simply looking at individual tunnels or roads. There should be a chance for the government to study the room for reducing tolls. In Central, the government was looking at the feasibility of rolling out electronic road pricing schemes. I believe the government should study whether it's possible to roll out a territory-wide electronic road pricing scheme. As for the amendments proposed by Mr. Michael TIEN, I believe he is speaking for the over 1 million people in Tuen Mun. However, with the fiscal deficit as well as tight public finances, I believe Mr. Tien's plan will add burden to the public coffers. I don't think it is the right timing for us to support his amendment. I hope that after the passage of the bill, the government will closely monitor the traffic flow at Tai Lam Tunnel and review the toll levels where appropriate. In the long run, the government should make use of technology to plan the tolls for different tunnels and tackle traffic congestion across all districts. Mr. Tommy Chan, President, the franchise will expire in May this year for the Tai Lam Tunnel. The government will take back the tunnel, and the government is taking the opportunity to adjust the tolls for the Tai Lam Tunnel. This is to respond to the demands of the public as well as the relevant industry. The Liberal Party supports the plan. The Tai Lam Tunnel was commissioned in 1998. The daily traffic flow is about 140,000 trips. According to the design of the tunnel, the capacity has reached 80%. But for the other two roads, that is Tuen Mun Road as well as Tolo Highway, the congestion problem has been getting worse. Tai Lam Tunnel can achieve a diversion effect because of its higher toll level. As long as the actual profit is lower than the net profit, it can increase its tolls. While the tolls is actually lower than the statutory level, for heavy goods vehicles, they can enjoy discounts during late night. Some vehicles, they can enjoy all-day discount, and for taxis, they can also enjoy a lower toll. This can respond to the needs of the industry. However, the toll level of this tunnel is still very high. The government has talked to the management company to lower the toll levels. As for the 3 road harbor crossings, the toll levels have been adjusted, so there have been views that the tolls for Tai Lam Tunnel should be adjusted as well. The government has made use of the 3 road harbor crossings to divert traffic. And it has successfully achieved a diversion effect through its toll plan. Today, the government is proposing a new toll plan for Tai Lam Tunnel to divert traffic from Tuen Mun Road as well as Tolo Highway. This is to tie in with the development in the new territories. By mitigating the congestion problem in Tuen Mun Road as well as the Tolo Highway, well, the government can earn a revenue of $720 million per year. This is higher than the expected $400 million. Some members have asked the government to lower the tolls during peak time slots. Mr. Michael TIEN has proposed a plan to substantially reduce the toll, suggesting that private cars going southbound in the morning as well as those going northbound during late night, there should be a different set of tolls. For taxis, the toll should be reduced from $28 to $5 according to Mr. TIEN. However, our party has reservation about this plan. We agree that the toll level should be adjusted downward. However, without an evidence-based approach, we should not lower the tolls arbitrarily. With the fiscal deficit, well, we see that this Thailand tunnel is a major artery. According to Mr. Michael TIEN, the tolls should be reduced, but it might result in traffic congestion. In the end, all the relevant road sections might be congested, and this will defeat the original purpose. The government proposed plan can achieve a diversion effect and at the same time ensure smooth traffic at the Thailand tunnel. The government has promised to review the toll plan where appropriate. Therefore, our party thinks that we should try out this toll plan first. If necessary, the tolls could be further reduced in the future. We hope that in the future, the government can prioritize commercial vehicles and lower the tolls for these CVs. Goods vehicles can reinforce Hong Kong's status as a logistics hub. The government proposes a toll for CVs after accepting our party's plan. That is an all-day uniform toll. For taxis, it's $28 for the entire day. It is 52% lower than the current toll. If the toll could be reduced to $25, it would benefit taxi drivers. Time-varying tolls have been implemented in the 3 road harbor crossings. For private cars, the tolls for traffic time slots was $18. However, non-peak hours spend 12 hours. And this is not in line with the government's policy to encourage the public to take the public transports. The taxi trade is worried that this proposal or this plan would benefit unlicensed white plate cars. The government has not been combating white plate cars, and this has affected the taxi drivers. It is hoped that, therefore, the government, when reviewing the tolls in the future, can encourage the public to take public transport and consider further reducing the tolls at Thailand Tunnel. As for other types of commercial vehicles, $43 is proposed for all day. And this is a reduction of 33 to 80% compared to the existing toll. While taking into consideration fuel costs as well as the number of cars using the tunnel, this is a reasonable toll. I hope the government, when reviewing the tolls, could, however, consider further reducing the tolls for commercial vehicles. President, I so submit I speak in support of the Road Tunnels Government Amendment Bill 2024. I oppose to Mr. Michael TIEN's plan.
Mr. Charles Siu-chung. President, this is a new toll plan from the government. For private cars and commercial vehicle cars, they will see much lower tolls. That's good for the public and the transport sector. I support lower tolls. The bill proposes tolls that are lower than the time-varying tolls tabled at the Traffic Advisory Committee for commercial vehicles. It will be $43 from $45, which was the first proposal at the TAC. So I commend the government for taking on board comment. Now, for certain commercial vehicles, the toll levels under this plan remain too high. For taxis, they are subject to a higher toll than Tailoshan Tunnel, and also $3 higher than the 3 RHCs. The $15 concession for not carrying a passenger will be gone, so passengers will be benefiting. Empty taxis will be subject to a higher toll. For light goods vehicles, the tolls will be lower. The reduction for taxis will be 51%, but the reduction for light goods vehicles will only be 31%, the smallest reduction for all commercial vehicles. Light goods vehicles, or LGVs, take up roughly the same amount of road resources as taxis and private cars, but LGVs are subject to higher tolls like the larger vehicles. Is that fair? Now, there are midnight discount rates for heavy goods vehicles. It's $35 for each trip for such vehicles over the midnight. Late in the evening, the discount can take pressure off the sector, and that also makes good use of the residual capacity of the tunnel. So for normal and off-peak time slots, lower tolls for commercial vehicles to encourage commercial vehicles to use the Thailand Tunnel during non-peak hours will take pressure off some drivers, and that will also redistribute the traffic, and that will ease the traffic congestion. So killing two birds with one stone. Indeed, this new plan proposes lower tolls, and the goal is to ease the traffic congestion. So I support the bill. But I also urge the government that upon the bill's passage to keep an eye on the traffic condition, and the government should keep exploring different options and lower the tolls when appropriate. Mr. Tony Tse. Thank you, President. I support the Road Tunnels Government Amendment Bill 2024. Second reading. The franchise for the Thailand Tunnel will expire in May this year, and then the government will take back the tunnel. The government will take this opportunity to adjust the tolls for different vehicles for this tunnel. That will bring benefits to motorists and the transport sector. Another goal is to attract motorists who are now using Two Moon Road and other routes because of cost considerations. The plan is to redistribute the traffic so that we're making the most of the capacity of the Thailand Tunnel. Now, for off-peak hours, we want to take pressure off the other routes so that we're easing the traffic congestion there. Now, we're also learning from the success story of the 3 road harbor crossings, meaning we are introducing time-varying tolls for the Thailand Tunnel 2, lower tolls for off-peak hours, higher tolls for busier hours. The point is to get some cars to take this tunnel at off-peak hours so that we further take pressure off Two Moon Road. most people will support this proposal. The remaining point of contention is the level of tolls. How much is the best toll level? For private cars, $30 during normal time slot, $18 for off-peak time slot, $45 for peak time slots. So the reduction ranges from 30 to 60%. The point is to use the price difference to encourage changes in driving habits. So let's contrast the new tolls with the current tolls. The reduction is 50 to 70%, so that's a staggering reduction. Some members don't think that reduction goes far enough. They want an even lower toll. And some may even prefer a toll-free tunnel, and that may be Mr. Michael TIEN's plan. His plan is that apart from the peak hours, private cars should have toll-free access to the Thailand tunnel. Mr. TIEN's argument is that the current plan can bring in $720 million in revenue for the government. The cost for operation is lower than this projected revenue, so he argues there's room for lowering the tolls. That's why Mr. Michael TIEN proposes toll-free access for most of the time. G19 disagrees. We have to consider the cost for maintaining and repairing the infrastructure. But then you also have to consider the need to reduce congestion and changing people's habits in terms of avoiding unnecessary driving. And this is where tolls can play a role. So that's where tolls can make a difference. Of course, people want toll-free access because they will have to spend less. But let's also bear in mind the overall impact on road usage. Back in 2018, the rationalization plan for the three RHCs was first proposed. The Secretary for Transport and Housing was still Mr. Frank Chen. He proposed a higher toll for the Cross Harbor Tunnel. The plan was to ease the congestion at the CHT. People had doubt at that point. Some legislative members at that point worried about the impact on people, so they opposed the plan. There were people arguing that all three RHCs should be made toll-free upon the takeover of the Western Harbor Crossing. I was in the group of G6. I supported the government's plan about the three RHCs. So a few years later, the government put in place the RHC's plans. And that proposal made a real difference in rationalizing the traffic. Less congestion, more economic benefits, more revenue for the coffers. And that also got the people to welcome the government's plan. Now, if you make the Thailand tunnel toll-free during the off-peak hours, you can make that work. But let's bear in mind that many commercial vehicles use the tunnel. Trucks, coaches. Those vehicles take the Thailand tunnel even at a higher toll because they see less congestion. But if we lower the tolls further still for the tunnel, that will have an impact on commercial vehicles now taking the Thailand tunnel. Tunnel tolls are just like other government charges. You have an easier time lowering it, but raising it will be harder. It will be hard to make something toll-free into a tolled tunnel. The e-road pricing scheme for Central has been under discussion for 3 decades. in that case, it's incredibly hard to build consensus because you're making something free, something people will have to pay for. Waiting for this Thailand tunnel to be overloaded before you adjust the tolls again will, I believe, very hard. Finally, given the fiscal deficit, people should bear in mind the impact of any changes in government charges on our fiscal reserves. Making the Thailand tunnel toll-free during off-peak hours will lead to not just reduction in revenue, and people will actually try to use the tunnel during the toll-free hours, and you get less revenue during the rush hours, and you won't have enough money to cover the maintenance of the tunnel. The government's plan is justified by a lot of data and research. Making the Thailand tunnel toll-free will attract many vehicles to this tunnel. You get congestion in the end, and that will mean serious consequences for the tunnel. And that will go against the policy of discouraging private cars and encouraging public transport. So I find myself unable to support Mr. Michael TIEN's amendment.
Mr. Ma Fong-kwok. President, toll tunnels, the handover of BOT franchise will expire soon, and the tunnel will be taken back by the government. The government takes this opportunity to lower tolls. For private cars, there will be a reduction of over 20%. In non-peak, the reduction is even greater. To residents using the tunnel to access new territories west and north, this will be music to their ears. They will support this proposal. Tunnels are very important to the development of Hong Kong. They are the infrastructures in Hong Kong. The onus is on the government to provide services in this regard. In the Secretary's remarks and in the Bills Committee, there are two terms with which we are very familiar. That is cost recovery and user pays principle. It means the government cannot subsidize the operation of the tunnel. That's why the government adopts a principle of user pays to recover the cost. This is how the government would set the toll levels. Well, I beg to differ. For user pay principle, using the Thailand tunnel as an example, many government infrastructures are free. They also connect the urban area and new territories, say other roads. Well, didn't the government spend money on these infrastructures? Doesn't the government need to spend on repair and maintenance? Two Moon Road is built against mountain and sea. The government needs to splash out on repair and maintenance. So I don't understand why Two Moon Road is free, whereas Thailand Tunnel needs to be charged tolls. Thailand Tunnel was built using the BOT principle. Developers make profits from the tunnel, but now that the franchise is going to expire, and the ownership will be taken back by the government soon. In other words, the government doesn't directly invest in the construction of Thailand Tunnel. Therefore, if the government claims that it needs to recover the cost, the government should only recover the cost of repair and maintenance in the future. Using tolls to adjust traffic volume on the road to ease traffic congestion. Well, I agree with this principle. But based on the toll plans in the bill today, the government can collect $720 million from Tai Lam Tunnel. The repair and maintenance costs of Tai Lam Tunnel, the government will earn about $500 million. The government explains using toll plans in Tai Lam Tunnel to adjust traffic volume will ease traffic congestion. And it is also a way to collect money to build further infrastructures in the future. But I'm not convinced. That is because building infrastructures and repairing them are the responsibility of the government. In NT West and NT North, they are main areas for development. I will still support this bill, but I hope that the government will draw reference from major mainland cities. In mainland cities where the fiscal position is better after the recovery of cost of the construction of the infrastructures, the government has already taken back the ownership of the infrastructures. Then, these infrastructures are provided to the public for free. The mainland administration thinks that the provision of infrastructures should be made free of charge, and they will not lead to traffic congestion. On the contrary, they will drive the local economic development. In mainland, there's an example. When a tunnel was made free, traffic was much smoother. But of course, Shanghai didn't stop there. It kept improving the traffic network between Pudong and the other end of the area. I'd like to take this opportunity of the second reading debate resumption to put forward my view. I hope that the government will continue to improve the transport network to do its best to develop local economy. The government should provide free of charge tunnels to motorists and road users. I support the bill. Mr. Benson Lok. Thank you, President. I speak in support of the proposal floated by the government. I was a member of the Bills Committee and I was involved in the scrutiny of the bill. When the government takes back Tai Lam Tunnel, the bill provides new toll plans, including peak time slots and off-peak time slots. The rationale is actually clear. We need to achieve a balance, and we also need to avoid traffic congestion. In 2025, we saw bus fare hikes, examinations, fees hikes, even Egg McMuffins saw an increase in the price. Well, if there is a reduction of the tolls and if there is still money going to the public coffers, then this is encouraging. As member already mentioned, of course, we all want toll-free tunnels, but there is no free lunch in the world. We need to level with the public. If Tai Lam Tunnel was made free of charge, who would foot the bill? The government is running a deficit of $100 billion. If the government needs to pay for the operation of the tunnel, then people will take the administration to task. There will be a reduction of revenue for the tunnel of 80%, and there will be a deficit or a loss of $270 million. The public will have to foot the bill. Who should foot the bill? Should the principle of user pays be used? Well, I believe the public wants the government to save money as much as possible. Regarding user pays principle, I don't agree with this principle every time. To adopt this principle, the prerequisite is that there are options. In fact, In the papers, we can see that there are actually other alternative routes. For example, Two Moon Road, as mentioned in the paper. The paper also mentions Tolo Highway. For the North District to Kowloon, motorists can opt for different alternative routes. In other words, motorists can have regard to their own situation, destination, and time and opt for different alternative routes. In other words, motorists have options they can choose. That's why we can adopt the user pays principle in relation to the Tai Lam Tunnel toll plans. We need to avoid traffic congestion. This toll plan is aimed at traffic diversion. Apart from peak time slots, I think the government should also take into account traffic flow in other time slots in order to avoid traffic congestion. Say, I'm a motorist. If there is no traffic congestion in the evening, but with the introduction of this new toll plan, there is traffic congestion. Is this really what the public wants to see? The Transport Department shares figures. If there's a slash in the tunnel tolls in Tai Lam Tunnel, there will be additional traffic flow, leading to 250 meters tailback in Tai Lam Tunnel. There will be traffic congestion, and I do believe the public doesn't want to see this happening. They don't want to see traffic congestion in the tunnel. In this debate over the toll plans, aside from motorists, I believe the administration need to point out that this issue is actually of concern to the public. Apart from motorists, most members of the public take public transport in their daily commute. There's a reduction of 80% for buses. When the tunnel is taken back by the government, the franchise bus toll exemption fund will be activated. So upon the takeover of the tunnel by the government, Hong Kong e-toll will be implemented, and some toll booths will be removed. A wider road will be made available for buses. There should be more discounts provided to the public who use buses. That's how the public will feel that they can benefit from the new toll plan. After the takeover of Tai Lam Tunnel, we have to keep a close watch on the changes in the traffic volume as a result of the new toll plan. I hope the government will closely monitor the traffic volume and make good use of the powers of the administration. That is, the Secretary can effect an adjustment of $3 in the tunnel tolls. That's how the government can achieve the best benefit.
Mr. Andrew Lam. Thank you, President. The franchise of the Tai Lam Tunnel will expire at the end of May this year. The bill is not a complicated one. However, people are all concerned about the toll levels proposed. As a member of the Bills Committee, I would like to thank Mr. Ben Chen for his leadership. I'd also like to thank the team led by Ms. Mabel Chan, the Secretary, for explaining the bill to us. Efficiency is of people's concern in terms of public transportation. Traffic demand has risen. Tolo Highway has been free of charge. How can we mitigate traffic congestion and take into consideration motorists' affordability? We have to come up with different scenarios. The bill proposes a time-varying toll plan, as well as parts raised in the previous amendment. This toll plan provides flexibility, and the toll could be adjusted at different time slots. This will help prevent traffic congestion. It will also help enhance efficiency. for users who would like flexibility, they have an option under this plan. Varying tolls have been implemented in the 3 road harbor crossings, and it has yielded results. With traffic diversion for the cross-harbor tunnel in Hong Kong, the traffic has reduced, and we also saw a reduction in traffic in CHT. The toll plan can help mitigate traffic congestion. The HKE toll system can help enhance efficiency because motorists won't have to stop to pay for the tolls. On this basis, I am confident that there won't be serious traffic congestion at the Tai Lam Tunnel. It is an important link between the urban area as well as the NT Northwest. In terms of the management of the tunnel, we have to take into consideration the capacity as well as the impact on the transportation network in the area. If there is no traffic congestion, of course, motorists will opt for the easiest route. If there is congestion, they will opt for the longer route. According to 2023 statistics, during peak hours in Tuen Mun Road, the capacity exceeds the volume there exceeds capacity by 14%. When we had the discussion about the time-bearing toll plan for the 3 road harbor crossings, there were proposals that toll should be higher at the Western Harbour Tunnel. With the development of the northern metropolis as well as different residential developments and the increase of job opportunities, there will be higher traffic demands for the roads and tunnels. Currently, there are plans in terms of the links connecting the urban area as well as the new territories. There needs to be a more flexible management plan to deal with the traffic demand in the future. Under the existing system, the Tai Lam Tunnel is the only road section that could be controlled. To maintain smooth traffic flow at the Tai Lam Tunnel, it is crucial to ensure a smooth traffic flow between the urban area and the new territories as well. As the government reviews the toll plan, it should make sure that there will be smooth connection between the urban area and the new territories northwest. Also, the government should consider making use of the electronic road pricing system as well as other means and technologies to divert traffic and minimize traffic congestion. Land resources are limited and we have many cars in Hong Kong. Even if we have money, it's not easy for us to find a feasible plan. Any road infrastructure cannot completely resolve the problem of congestion in Hong Kong. Any proposals from the government may face criticism. If the government reduce the cost or keep the cost to zero, in the future there will only be room for upward adjustment of tolls. We all know how difficult this would become. So I've been calling for electronic road pricing schemes to regulate our traffic flow. The government should, however, come up with concrete indicators to make a judgment on the capacity of our road networks, which can serve as a basis for it to make adjustments to tunnel tolls. This will also help the public understand the government's rationale in adjusting the tolls. I so submit I speak in support of the bill. Thank you. Mr. Perry Yu. Thank you, President. I speak in support of the Road Tunnels Government Amendment Bill 2024. I am a member of the Bills Committee. I took part in the bill scrutinizing work. The franchise of the Tai Lam Tunnel will expire in May this year. The government will take over the tunnel. The government will establish a new toll plan in hopes of regulating traffic flow, providing convenience to residents in the new territories, and abide by the user pays principle. I support this direction. During the bill scrutiny work, I suggested that the government should make sure that the Tai Lam Tunnel can see smooth traffic. The cross-boundary logistics should also be made efficient. The government should lower the traffic cost as well as time for commuters in order to make sure that the toll plan is cost-effective. The Tai Lam Tunnel is an important piece of infrastructure for commuters in the new territories. It is also an important link between the airport as well as the urban area. To reinforce Hong Kong's status as an international hub, we have to make the networks around the airport accessible. The Hong Kong airport is in a strategic location. To the west, we have the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. Nearby, we also have a link that leads you to Shenzhen. There is also the Changi link that leads you to the Lok Ma Chau Huanggang port. The Tai Lam Tunnel is connected to the container terminal as well as the airport. It is an important artery for the logistics industry. The new Huanggang port will be commissioned by the end of this year. It will take 5 minutes instead of 20 minutes for people to cross the boundary. It is believed that we will see a higher number of passengers crossing the border. There are views that the government should more aggressively reduce the tolls at the Tai Lam Tunnel. This should be a good news for the motorists as well as the logistics industry. However, during peak period, the capacity has reached 80% at the tunnel. It is believed that in the coming year, the capacity will reach 99%. We have to also factor in the increase in traffic after the development of the northern metropolis. If there is a further cut to the tunnel tolls, it will increase the burden of the government. It will also add to the uncertainties of road traffic. Will we be able to make sure smooth traffic with lower tolls? I'm not sure. There might be a lose-lose situation if there are further cuts to the tolls. If the Tai Lam Tunnel becomes a toll-free tunnel, the government may lose the control of the tunnel. In 2022, the government exempted the toll at the Lantau Link. I think we should learn from this practice. In recent years, the number of registered vehicles has been on the rise. After the COVID pandemic, point-to-point traffic to and from the airport, the demand has increased. Since the exemption of tolls at Lantau Link, there have been more private cars using the Lantau Link to go to the airport. We did not expect so many private cars to go to the airport because the government was expecting or designing the network as a mass transport system. For people who go to T1 of the airport, they might have to wait for 10 to 20 minutes to get off the cards. And this has increased the burden of the network around the airport. However, it's hard for the government to charge tolls again at Lantau Link. So, There's no way for the government now to charge tolls at Lantau Link to regulate traffic flow. To make sure smooth traffic around the core road sections around the airport, it is crucial for the economy. The aviation industry is concerned about the transportation network around the airport. For those who go to the airport from Shenzhen Bay Port during traffic or during peak time slots, there's been traffic congestion on Tuen Mun Road. So the government should speed up its works on Tuen Mun bypass so that it would be easier for people to get to the Shenzhen Bay Port, and it would also facilitate cross-boundary travel. During late hours, currently, people use Huanggang Port if they want to have 24/7 cross-boundary travel to the mainland. By the end of the year, we will see the commissioning of the new Huanggang Port. I believe there will be more passengers using the new Huanggang Port then. Franchise bus services going to and from the new Huanggang Port at the small hours will increase. That's why the industry would like to make sure that there will be smooth traffic. People mainly use the Tai Lam Tunnel to go between the urban area as well as the Huanggang Port. So people are concerned about the traffic condition there. I think this plan could be a testing ground for the administration. In the future, the administration may further adjust the tolls at the Tai Lam Tunnel. We hope the government can try to lower the tolls for commercial vehicles as much as possible to enhance our competitiveness and to facilitate traffic to and from the airport. We want to attract people from Shenzhen to use the Hong Kong airport to travel to other destinations in the world. This is crucial for us to establish ourselves as an international aviation hub. I so submit. Thank you.
Mr. Louis Long. Madam Deputy, the Tai Lam Tunnel is a key link between northwestern New Territories and the urban area. This tunnel is also a vital link for our airport and other parts of the city. Now we have the Central Rail Link, Route 11, the Northern Metropolis Highway. All those projects are still being designed, and it will take a while before they become operational. So that means the Tai Lam Tunnel will play a crucial role in linking up the northern metropolis and the urban center. The focus here is we want the Tai Lam Tunnel to support the logistics sector. We also want to balance that with the use of this tunnel by other motorists. The tunnel's franchise will expire at the end of May this year, and then the government will take it back. So here we have the Road Tunnels Government Amendment Bill 2024. We're amending the law so that there will be a legal basis for the government to run the tunnel after it takes back the tunnel. The government is taking this opportunity to set the future tolls for this tunnel. The government will take back the tunnel. The bill itself is not contentious. The tolls will be slashed, and that will be welcomed by the public. So there's no reason for me to oppose the bill. What I want to discuss today is getting the users of the tunnel on board. I want to get them to think that the tunnel's new tolls are sensible. Now, by setting these tunnels, the government has looked at the experience of the tolls for the three RHCs. There was a model, there was a scientific process in the projection. Views of stakeholders were taken on board, and there is these four policy goals. One of them is user pays and also cost recovery. That's how the tolls, these new tolls, are proposed. We want to recover the cost for operating the tunnel. The government is facing a huge fiscal deficit. In that context, sticking to the cost recovery and user pays principles makes sense. But to implement these two principles, you have to wonder why some government tunnels are free while others are tolled tunnels. At the press conference for Audit Report number 83, we discussed Chapter 7. We discussed the Tumon-Chetlap-Kok link. This link cost more than $40 billion, but that link is toll-free. So does it mean those routes and tunnels require no maintenance? I think many users of the tunnel are left scratching their heads. Based on the government's papers, every year the government expects a $720 million revenue each year. But for the Thailand tunnel, in 2022 to 23, the operating cost was only $440 million. In other words, in running the Thailand tunnel, the revenue will exceed the cost. So the government is actually going beyond the principles of user pays and cost recovery. Some think it makes sense for the government to use the revenue from the Thailand tunnel to subsidize other routes and tunnels. So on this point, I would like the government to explain clearly how this works to the public. The government's toll plan will see reduction in tolls for all vehicles, but then we are upholding the efficiency first principle. And given the importance of the Thailand tunnel in New South and North New Territories, commercial vehicles will see the largest reduction in their tolls. That's because we want more commercial vehicles to use the Thailand tunnel. We want to lower their cost. We want to support the logistics sector so that they can play a bigger role in the economy. In terms of the actual reduction, commercial vehicles will see reductions ranging from 33 to 80%, way above the reduction of 22% for private cars. The government says this demonstrates the efficiency first principle. But that claim does not tell us the full story. This reduction is based on the current toll system. Everyone knows that the Thailand tunnel's tolls after adjustment will mean commercial vehicles will still pay a way higher toll than private cars. For normal hours, private cars will pay $30, but commercial vehicles will pay a flat rate of $43, up 40%. So a larger reduction does not really mean a lower toll. The government said in deciding on the reduction in the tolls for commercial vehicles, the government has to consider the extra vehicle flow. Hong Kong's transport policy has always been focused on public transport. So that means we need further reduction in the tolls for commercial vehicles, more efficiency for commercial vehicles, so that more commercial vehicles take the Thailand Tunnel. Meanwhile, we should reduce, or rather, we should have a smaller reduction in the tolls for private cars. That way, you encourage the public to take public transport. So fewer private cars use the tunnel. We want more commercial vehicles to take the Thailand Tunnel. That way, the tunnel will be able to support the logistics sector. Meanwhile, we're also balancing the needs of different users, and that will be a better way to uphold efficiency first as a principle. The needs of industries vary from one sector to another. A flat rate will better meet the operating needs of the logistics sector. So I support this idea of a flat rate for commercial vehicles. The more complicated your tolling model, the higher your administrative costs, and the more error-prone the system becomes. And I don't see the need for people trying to outsmart the government over tolls. Mr. Michael TIEN wants to move amendments. I get what he is trying to achieve, but then simplicity is simply better. My idea is, let's support this bill, let this bill pass, and then in the future, we align and rationalize the tolls for different tunnels in one go. And then we calibrate the tolls in the future. So simply put, Madam Deputy, I support the passage of this bill. The tolls are not perfect. So I urge the government to have a review of the tolls soon, and please actively consider further lowering the tolls for commercial vehicles to improve the operating environment for commercial vehicles. Madam Deputy, I so submit. Professor Lau Chi-Pang. Thank you, Madam Deputy. I support the Road Tunnels Government Amendment Bill 2024. At the Bills Committee, I made a remark that over principles, matters of principles, we can have a discussion on that. First, cost recovery, and then we have user pays. People agree that this is what we should pursue. Some tunnels come with a toll, but others are toll-free. So how do you make sense of that? Let's look at the tolled tunnels. Some tunnels were built with the expectation that that tunnel will be a tolled tunnel. For the Thailand Tunnel, sure, we have to bear in mind user pays and cost recovery. But we should also consider how we can make the most of the tunnel. What role is the Thailand Tunnel supposed to play? I think it's sensible to link the toll level with the vehicle flow. For people who live in northwestern New Territories, you know what the Thailand Tunnel is like. I have lived in that area for decades. This tunnel can be a lifesaver when there is traffic jam on Tuen Mun Road. You hear a report, Tuen Mun Tunnel is crammed, so people can take the Thailand Tunnel instead. I agree with Mr. Louis Long on the point. Let's go ahead with the current plan first. You charge a lower toll, you get more cars. So the journey time gets longer because of the congestion. You charge a higher toll, you get fewer cars. That means more room for cars. The interesting part here is as the government indicated during our meetings, and there were figures, we only had a model to go on. But let's give it 3 or 6 months. On the Tuen Mun side, things will be fine. On the east, you have Santine. I know Ms. Chen Yut-ming also takes the tunnel. When she joins electrical meetings in the morning, things are tricky when she takes the eastern route. So she would take a detour. She takes the Thailand Tunnel and the WHC. So we will have to give it a try before we can tell how it will work. So we have a model, let's give it a try. So things aren't as simple as cost recovery. We have to see if the toll level enables us to reach our goal. You have Tuen Mun, you have Yuen Long. Further afield, you have Sheung Shui. So how should people in these different areas use the tunnel? So once we take back this tunnel, the government should compile data on the usage, and then we do a review. And then we can tell whether the tolls make sense. Now, since we have this opportunity, the scheme for the 3 RHCs has yielded results. Now more cars are using the WHC. The concept of electronic road pricing is something we should look at. Now, some roads are toll-free. That isn't necessarily a good thing. I live in Tuen Mun. When I visit Kowloon or Hong Kong Island, I cannot take the Tuen Mun Center section of Tuen Mun Road because the Tuen Mun Chek Lap Kok link has that lane with Tuen Mun Road. The speed limit is 30 kilometers. I normally go at 15 kilometers. We're crawling because all heavy vehicles take that route. Now, I'm not taking the secretary to task here. I'm saying if we put a toll gate at that spot, you will see way fewer vehicles because those cars will go elsewhere. We don't want that because we want people to be able to access the airport and Tuen Mun West with ease. All that I'm highlighting is a toll makes a real difference. I think we are proposing sensible tolls for the Thailand Tunnel. The new tolls will be way lower than the current rate. More motorists will use the Thailand Tunnel, but we have no idea what the usage will actually be. And when should the tunnel be toll-free? This can get tricky. People in Hong Kong are highly sensitive to charges and tolls. Let's look at the 3 RHCs. Many people try to take the WHC when the toll is at $20, meaning at the lower level. There is interaction between the Tai Lam Tunnel and the WHC. So when people leave early, they can make the most of the Tai Lam Tunnel, and then they can go all the way to Hong Kong Island. So that's roughly my point. Madam Deputy, I support the Road Tunnels Government Amendment Bill 2024. I so submit.
Mr. Ng Kong. Deputy President, the construction of tunnels is aimed at improving traffic. Time-varying tolls as proposed by the administration comprise peak time slots and off-peak time slots. This is globally recognized ways to reduce traffic congestion. In the traffic rationalization among 3 road harbor crossings, we can see the results of the tunnel tolls. Some people ask whether we can further lower tolls. Can we make it free in some time slots? Well, I think we should tread cautiously. We need to exercise fiscal discipline, charge reasonable tolls to maintain a level of service for the public. We also need to uphold the principle of cost recovery. These are very reasonable principles. If we need to provide discounts below the cost to users of the Tai Lam Tunnel, rather we should take a holistic approach. Now we're talking about tolls for one single tunnel, but the impacts are not just about tolling systems. It affects the entire transportation system. Tunnel tolling is linked to traffic congestion. We shouldn't charge lower tolls but create more problems. In other words, we cannot recover the cost, but then we cause traffic congestion at the same time. The $2 scheme is already the talk of the town. The government is now in the red. If we can control the tolls for the Tai Lam Tunnel, we should keep the gate strictly. The tolling standard for tunnels and bridges have a lot of different considerations and calculation methods. We need to be keeping a standard, but it doesn't mean that we cannot be flexible. I agree with Mr. Louis Long that the government should, as soon as possible, conduct a holistic review on tunnel tolls. It's easy to access information. We can use AI to build a model. It is not impossible to achieve high efficiency while providing convenience to members of the public. We need to tread cautiously. So, Deputy President, I speak in support of the government bill. Thank you, Deputy President. Mr. Kenneth Lau. Deputy President, the franchise will expire on the 31st of May this year. The government tabled this bill to provide for the transitional arrangements upon the takeover of the tunnel by the administration. There will also be a time-varying toll plan for the Tai Lam Tunnel. So different classes of vehicles will pay different tolls in relation to different time slots. NT-West and NT-North residents rely on 3 trunk roads to ply between the urban area and the new territories, including Tai Lam Tunnel and Two Moon Road and Tolo Highway. The latter 2 roads are free of charge. There's an excess of traffic of 14% for Two Moon Road and Tolo Highway. There's an excess of traffic, but there is still sufficient road space. That's why the administration proposed TVT time-varying tolls to incentivize motorists to choose alternative routes, so the remaining capacity of the Tai Lam Tunnel can be better used. take private cars as an example. In peak time slots, $45, and normal time slot, $30, and off-peak time slot, $18. A drop of 20% to 60% comparing with the existing toll level. For taxi, hold the uniform toll of $28, which is a 50% drop from the existing toll. For buses and commercial vehicles, hold the uniform toll of $43, a drop of 30% to 80% from the existing toll level. After the implementation of TVT, traffic volume and efficiency ratio of Tai Lam Tunnel will increase from 0.8 to 1. For Tuen Mun Road, the figure will drop from 1.2 to 1.15. For Tolo Highway, it will drop from 1.05 to 1.02. Upon the passage of the bill, Tai Lam Tunnel tolls will be adjusted downwards, and that is a response to public demands. Tai Lam Tunnel traffic volume will decrease as a result. Long Fu Road, Tuen Mun Road, and Wangju Road, the tailback will be alleviated, so I support the bill. In relation to the amendment to the bill to be moved by Mr. Michael TIEN, for private cars and motorcycles, peak time slots, normal time slots, and off-peak time slots, different tolls will be charged based on the directions of traffic. Taxi, hold a uniform tolls to be decreased to $5. I understand Mr. Michael TIEN wants to reduce the commuting time for New Territories West and North residents. But the administration said that that would lead to additional traffic volume at Tai Lam Tunnel, and that will cause traffic congestion, and tailback will be as long as 250 meters. There will be a significant reduction of 80% of the revenue, amounting to $207 million. We are running at a fiscal deficit of $100 billion, so we need to save as much as we can. In the long run, with the Northern Metropolis development projects being commissioned, say Hong Shui Kiu Ha Chun, Fan Lang North, Kwu Tung North, NDAs, Santin Techno Pop, Shampoo Shu, Wetland Conservation Park, and so on. After a few years, there will be population intake, Shenzhen, Hong Kong, INT Park. Chances are that a lot of INT talents will move into the area. The working population of NT West and NT North will see an exponential increase. Tai Lam Tunnel, Tuen Mun Road, and Tolo Highway, the three trunk roads, will not be able to provide traffic diversion sufficiently. These three trunk roads may even be overburdened at the same time, causing inconvenience to the public, and that will also affect the development of the area. In order to solve the problem and ease the commuting pressure of residents, we need to address the situation in which there is more demand than supply. By 2033, I look forward to the commissioning of Route 11. We need to keep improving traffic infrastructures, and we also need to improve the capacity of trunk roads. I appeal the government to speed up projects of the Northern Link to ease the pressure on the roads. When the transport network of the New Territories is moving towards perfection, then the government can take stock of the situation and revises the toll plans. The administration can consider toll waivers at that time. Then the government can release the development potential of Hong Kong. I speak in support of the bill. Thank you, Deputy President.
Mr. Yim Kong. Thank you, Deputy President. The Tai Lam Tunnel links up New Territories Northwest as well as the urban areas and the Shenzhen Bay Port. This May, the government will take over the franchise, and the government will have to take into consideration the financial viability as well as the affordability and cost effectiveness. In terms of cost effectiveness, the government should lower the tolls as much as possible. This will lower the cost of commuters and benefit people. Also, it will ease the burden of the transport and logistics industry and facilitate economic growth. However, the government is facing a fiscal deficit. It abides by the user pays principle and keep the tolls at a certain level. This is a plan that takes into consideration different factors. With the development of the northern metropolis, if we waive the tolls at the Tai Lam Tunnel, it might induce traffic to the tunnel and aggravate the traffic congestion problem during peak hours. Setting different tolls can divert traffic and help maintain smooth traffic. The government should encourage the public to use public transport. And for buses that use the Tai Lam Tunnel, they should pay lower tolls. This will benefit people and yield results. Tolls for taxis should be lowered from $28 to align the tolls with that for the 3 road harbor crossings. A $25 toll should be imposed on taxis. There will be infrastructure completed in the northern metropolis. The government should take into consideration revenue as well as the traffic condition. And further lower the tolls at the Tai Lam Tunnel in future. It is estimated that with this toll plan, the government will earn some $700 million per year, and the operating cost will be about $400 million. There should be room for further cuts to the tunnel tolls. Deputy President, I am a member of this Bills Committee. I speak in support of this bill. I so submit. Mr. Gary Zhang. Thank you, Deputy President. A few years ago, this current term government took office, and the toll was adjusted upward for the Tai Lam Tunnel. In 1995, the then Legislative Council approved the plan, and I tried to look for information about the toll adjustment mechanism. During the research, I found that the then secretaries or the then administration adjusted the tolls upward because it wanted to achieve a traffic diversion effect. On one hand, we want to lower the burden of commuters in the new territories. On the other hand, we want to facilitate cross-boundary logistics development. It's been some 20 years now. We can't say that diversion effect has not been achieved because a lot of cars use the Thailand Tunnel. However, has diversion effect been achieved in the sense that it has met our expectation? I believe not. Over the years, tolls has been on the rise. At the beginning, it was $15. Now it's $58 for public transport. The toll has increased fivefold from $45 to $213. The designed capacity is lower than expected for the Thailand Tunnel. Let's look at the transport infrastructure in Hong Kong. Most of them cannot serve the needs. A lot of them are overburdened. For the Thailand Tunnel, we are seeing a vicious cycle. Because of a lack of traffic flow, the investors could not break even. And that's why every year the investors raise the tolls. And the tolls are much higher than that for Tuen Mun Road. So cars stop using the Thailand Tunnel. Therefore, we're seeing a situation where there is long-term traffic congestion on Tuen Mun Road. And the Thailand Tunnel, on the other hand, is not well used. The government is now taking back the tunnel, and there is finally a chance for us to remedy the situation. The government is taking over the franchise, and I, as a member of this council who cares deeply about the traffic condition, I remember during the first meeting where we discussed this bill, it was said that this Thailand Tunnel is a major artery for commuters. It's also an important link for our economy as well as the logistics industry. So we have to make sure that there is smooth traffic at the tunnel. The administration told us that the total capacity of Tuen Mun Road as well as the Thailand Tunnel during peak hours, they cannot serve the needs. If we have even distribution of the traffic flow between the Tuen Mun Road as well as the Thailand Tunnel, we will still see congestion. Also, we talked about the time-varying toll plan. We already see time-varying tolls at the 3 road harbor crossings. From the technical perspective, the administration said that Tuen Mun Road is free of charge. And we won't be able to encourage cars to use the tunnel during non-peak hours instead of peak hours. This is because people have the options of using the Tuen Mun Road even when there is traffic congestion. I raised 2 comments. I agree that with the toll plan, we have to make sure that there is smooth traffic at the Thailand Tunnel because it will benefit the economy. However, if there is no time-varying tolls, during off-peak hours, we will see serious congestion on Tuen Mun Road, and nobody will use the Thailand Tunnel. This has been the pain over the years, and we cannot carry on with this situation after the government takes over the tunnel. According to our estimate, if the all-day toll is about $40, the Thailand Tunnel will still see the highest tolls among all tolls in Hong Kong, all tunnels in Hong Kong. So time-varying tolls is an important measure. It is only through this measure that we can respond to the needs of different people. We have to make sure on one hand that during peak hours there is smooth traffic at the Thailand Tunnel. On the other hand, we have to make sure that people can feel the benefits by paying the tolls. I'm glad that the Transport Department as well as the Transport and Logistics Bureau are implementing the time-varying tolls. And this time-varying tolls plan got the support of the majority of the members of this council, as well as people in Hong Kong. So I, in principle, support the vision of this bill. I think the discussion we have about the toll plan shows that we are putting our heads together and that the government has been listening to our views. Now, with the time-varying tolls framework, we have to look at the toll levels in different time slots. We have to think about how we set the price and the difference between the tolls during different time slots. Mr. Michael TIEN's amendment reflects a different standpoint. I have my own views about his proposal. I will save that for later during the CSA stage. Thank you.
Dr. Lower Kwok. Madam Deputy, the BPA and I support the passage of the Road Tunnels Government Amendment Bill 2024. The bill to operate transfer franchise of the Thailand Tunnel will expire on the 31st of May this year, and then the tunnel will be vested back in the government again. This bill seeks to amend Cap 368 and its subsidiary legislation so that that ordinance will cover the Thailand Tunnel. As for the Thailand Tunnel and Yunnan Approach Road Ordinance Cap 474 and its subsidiary legislation, that will be repealed. There will be new tolls for the Thailand Tunnel. The Thailand Tunnel is a key corridor between northwestern New Territories and the urban areas for both people and goods. The government wants to take this opportunity to set new tolls to implement multiple policy goals. First, reasonable tolls to regulate the traffic flow, and also making good use of the residual capacity of the tunnel to take pressure off Two Moon Road and Tolo Highway. There will be peak time slots, normal time slots, and off-peak time slots. Time-varying tolls will better reflect tolls that are commensurate with the traffic flow. That will also give the government flexibility in setting the tolls so that it can manage the traffic. Now, based on the government's proposed tolls, private cars will be subject to time-varying tolls. On weekdays, peak time slots $45, normal time slot $30, off-peak time slot $18. The reduction from the current level ranges from 22 to 69%. For public holidays and Sundays, there will be a flat rate of $18. For motorcycles, they will be subject to a toll at 40% of the rate for private cars. For commercial vehicles such as trucks and buses, they follow the efficiency first principle. There will be a flat rate of $43 throughout the day. The reduction from the current level will range from 33 to 80%. That's a larger reduction than the reduction in the tolls of private cars, so the point is to get more commercial vehicles to use the Thailand Tunnel. That will support the logistics sector. The government has considered the traveling pattern, the road space, and transport efficiency of taxis. Taxis are similar to private cars in this regard. So that's why the rate for taxis will be $28, a flat rate, a reduction of 52% from the current toll. Madam Deputy, I did not take part in the deliberations of the Bills Committee, but I did take part in the discussion at the panel on transport. Most members supported time-varying tolls for the Thailand Tunnel as a way to regulate the traffic flow. This is to ensure smooth traffic at the tunnel. and also support the logistics sector. That's also to address the public expectation that tolls will be lowered. Some argue for a more aggressive reduction in tolls, or even making the tunnel toll-free. But let's bear in mind that the tunnel will be a key asset of the government. It has to be run and maintained. In 2022 to 23, the total operating cost was $440 million. With the government's fiscal position in mind, the government should stick to the user pays principle in setting a reasonable toll. That's to ensure the tunnel will be run properly. Now, for the $18 for private cars during off-peak time slots, that's at the cost recovery level, with little room for further reduction. Now, the operator is charging a very high toll. The VC ratio is already at 80%. With the new tolls, meaning lower tolls, the VC ratio is expected to reach 1. Further slashing the tolls or making the tunnel toll-free will lead to more traffic, and that means congestion, and that will go against the policy goal. The government's projection is that the revenue will be $720 million a year. The considerations behind the tolls are avoidance of congestion and road traffic regulation, and that will also mean raising money for future infrastructure projects. Neither the government nor the Bills Committee has proposed any amendment to this bill. So in this context, as Mr. Michael TIEN wants to propose an amendment, I have reservations about that amendment. Mr. TIEN's amendment is that for vehicles other than taxis, those vehicles will only be subject to a toll in southbound traffic in the morning's peak hour and in the northbound traffic during the afternoon peak slot. So that means for 85% of the time, no toll will apply. As for the remainder of the time, tolls will only apply to one-way traffic. Mr. TIEN also proposes a $5 flat rate for taxis, a reduction from $28 in the government's plan. The implication will be a much smaller revenue by 80%, an 80% reduction in revenue. So the revenue will go down from $720 million to $130 million under Mr. TIEN's plan, and that will fall below the operating cost, meaning an annual operating deficit of hundreds of millions of dollars, or $270 million, and that will also go against the government's policy goal. That's the last thing people want to see. If this bill is passed today, the government will take back the Thailand tunnel, and then the new tolls will take effect. The government should explain the new tolls, the time-varying tolls, to the public and the sector to avoid confusion. As more roads and tunnels will come under the government's management, there should be timely management or review of the tolls for scope for further reductions in tolls. Now, on the cross-harbor tolls for commercial vehicles, I have been calling for a two-tier toll system, meaning one toll for larger commercial vehicles and another toll for smaller ones. I hope we can follow this approach for the Thailand tunnel. So for smaller commercial vehicles, we want to take pressure off these cars. I so submit I support the passage of the Road Tunnels Government Amendment Bill 2024. I am against Mr. Michael TIEN's amendment. Dr. So Chang-Wing. Thank you, Madam Deputy. Before our discussion today, or rather, as the Thailand tunnel stands, it is now charging a high toll, and that's bad for redistribution of traffic. That franchise will expire on the 31st of May this year. As the government takes back the tunnel, it will also put in place new tolls. This shows the government is responsive. It is improving the transport network in a timely way. I support the Road Tunnels Government Amendment Bill 2024. The Thailand Tunnel is a key transport link in New Territories West. It links up northwestern New Territories and the urban areas. This tunnel also links up the road boundary control point, the airport, terminals. This tunnel has a crucial strategic role to play. The success of this tunnel means a lot for Hong Kong's development in the context of the Greater Bay Area. So my suggestion is that with this bill's passage, the government should take the following steps. There should be ongoing enhancements to the tunnel and its surrounding areas. We should put people first. We should ease the traffic congestion. In Yuen Long and the North District, more than 1 million people live there. New housing estates are being completed. There is MTR service, but the congestion remains on Tuen Mun Road. This tunnel was built to redistribute the traffic from Tuen Mun Road. But the high tolls, say for private cars and taxis, $58, that high toll turns motorists to Tuen Mun Road instead. The new toll plan will feature a time-varying toll system, so the toll will range from $18 to $45. For taxis, it will be $28. That should be enough to attract people to take the Thailand Tunnel instead. And for the Tuen Mun Road, that will mean 300 fewer cars during rush hours. With the new tolls, if there is still capacity left at the Thailand Tunnel, the government should take a scientific approach to toll adjustment in further taking pressure off Tuen Mun Road. The government should plan for the transport network for the northern metropolis. The transport links are like the arteries of a person, so transport links matter. Hong Shou Kiu will become a modern logistics park. Goods can go to the container terminal by taking the Thailand Tunnel. 32% of the cars taking the Thailand Tunnel are goods vehicles. That highlights the contribution of the tunnel to our economy. In the northern metropolis, many people will move there. Given this pressure, given the many links and routes under planning, such as going from Yuen Long to northern Lantau, Route 11, traffic demand is dynamic. So the government needs to keep up with the changing times. That means leveraging the existing traffic networks and the new traffic routes. We should make efficient use of transport networks and make sure we keep up with future transport demand. Slashing the tolls for commercial vehicles by setting it at $43 or a 33% to 80% reduction, that's good for the flow of people and good for the logistics industry. This is the sensible thing to do. Tolls for buses will go down from $213 to $43. Given that the government should urge bus operators to create new bus routes. Those routes should link up the new development areas in northwestern new territories. So incentives and policy support should be leveraged to make it easier to do business and foster traveling. The tunnel should follow the principle of cost recovery. The TLB has told us the operating cost for the Thailand tunnel is more than $400 million per year. Based on the new tolls, the operating revenue will be more than $700 million a year, meaning roughly $300 million of surplus each year. The government has said tolls are not the sole factor they consider. The government also has to strike a balance between traffic management and the burden on motorists. The government should review the tolls if people find the tolls too high. The franchise of the Thailand tunnel will expire in a few months' time. Adjusting the tolls for better traffic management in the district is something the government should pursue in a timely way. We should stick to the user pays principle. Cost recovery matters. Financial sustainability also matters. I so submit.
Mr. Dominic Lee, thank you, Deputy President. Transport problems are causes for concern for members of the public. For those living in new territories, any adjustments in trunk roads affect their commuting time. The Thailand tunnel links the urban area to NT West and NT North. It is an important artery in the city. The Transport and Logistics Bureau makes these adjustments. It takes into account different factors, say striking a balance between traffic and interests and rights of residents. They have done a lot. I thank them for their efforts. And the New People's Party supports their amendments. The government is going to take back ownership of Thailand tunnel. It takes this opportunity to review the tolling mechanism. I know different political parties have been consulted. The community has also been consulted. After a long period of time, the government arrived at this proposal. The Transport Department published assessments. Well, a few years ago, I didn't believe the contents. But then the rationalization of traffic among the 3 road harbor crossings yielded excellent results. It is impressive. Not very often did I hear rounds of applause from the public. Many members of the public usually criticize the government. The adjustments earned the recognition of the public. So I'm quite confident in the projections prepared by the government in relation to traffic in the Thailand tunnel. To ease pressure on Thailand tunnel in peak time slots to avoid traffic congestion, according to this plan, peak time slot $45, normal time slot $30, off-peak time slots $18 for private cars, taxi $28, commercial vehicles $43. This will ensure a more even traffic flow. This will also avoid excessive concentration of traffic owing to toll plans that will ease the impact on traffic volume as a result of tolls. And I have to comment on the amendment to be moved by Mr. Michael TIEN as well. I'm from NT East. Residents don't use the Tai Lam Tunnel as frequently. Some residents say probably, well, why not we have a toll-free tunnel? But what is the cost? We indeed have to discuss this. For motorcycles and motorcycles in non-peak time slots, the tunnels will be made free. In off-peak time slot, even if we made the tunnel toll-free, it won't lead to traffic congestion. So why don't we adopt this proposal? Why don't we make it free if it doesn't cause traffic congestion? Well, I believe there are two factors. One, this assumption isn't necessarily correct. If we made it free of charge, you would divert motorists who meant to use peak time slots to use off-peak time slots. It is possible that the tailback at Tai Lam Tunnel will be as long as 250 meters. There will also be more pressure on Ten Kau Bridge that will affect the traffic flow in the city. And that is exactly the impact that we could not project. If there is a need for adjustments, we need to take a more conservative approach. In the future, we can always take stock of the situation. So why don't we adopt a more conservative proposal? So as the next step, when the public feels that this proposal is workable, then the Bureau can make adjustments to tunnel tolls. The same went for different tunnels in the past. In relation to fiscal pressure, indeed, it is an issue. Right now, we are facing a fiscal deficit of $100 billion. We need to save as much as possible. Whatever the adjustment proposals, before we take over the tunnel tolls will be much cheaper than the existing tolls. We need to get this correct. It is not true that we don't take a look at the tunnel tolls. They are very expensive, and the toll proposals will bring down the tolls. That ensure proper use of financial resources. Based on the projections, we need to spend $270 million more every year. Probably you'll say, well, is it very expensive? Well, yes. It is a hefty sum. We need to make good use of all public funds. We shouldn't let the public foot the bill. In the future, we need to improve the transport network in the new territories. I believe the Transport and Logistics Bureau will continue to improve the local transport network. They will also improve the mass transportation network, say West Rail, as well as other transport options. Then the public will rely less on private cars. I understand there are smart traffic, other supporting measures, and so on. I hope these will help solve the problem. Overall, the issues seen in NT-West deserve our concern. The proposals moved by the administration are correct steps. I expect with the implementation of the new measures, we can see good results instantly. I hope that the public will know the government is successful in its policies. Thank you. Mr. Lai Tong Kwok. Thank you, President. I speak in support of the tunnel proposals floated by the government. Tunnel tolls are sensitive topics in Hong Kong. So for the 3 road harbor crossings, when we needed to adjust the tolls, there were a lot of in-depth discussions back and forth. In the end, after the administration had taken back all 3 road harbor crossings, then the government proposed a new tolling plan. Back then, I had great doubts as well regarding the computer model. Was it really true or was it not? After experience, well, we have arrived at a conclusion. This tolling model is indeed effective. That being said, for Western Harbor Crossing, there is traffic congestion about 2 hours in the morning and an hour or so in the evening. Despite a higher toll of the WHC, we still see this situation. My analysis is that it is convenient. That's why members of the public are willing to pay more to take the WHC. If we apply this experience to Tai Lam Tunnel, the situation will be similar. Just now, many members spoke on this issue. They confirmed the principle of users pay. This principle is right. When we built the Tai Lam Tunnel, our purpose was to provide a faster access for members of the public to get to their own destinations. If toll changes lead to traffic congestion, then this is the last thing we want to see. I had an experience in Australia. In Melbourne, there are many mountain roads. They are toll-free, not a single cent. They have been built for a long time. But for a highway in Australia, be they highways or tunnels, motorists will have to pay tolls. Expensive tolls. Motorists, when they get off work, use these highways. It's fast to take these roads. Otherwise, you'll have to take winding roads. You'll have to be stuck in traffic. Applying this experience to Hong Kong, our situation is the same. Two Moon Road, the situation is the same. That's why tolling plans are complicated. Now that we have a successful experience, a quite successful model, why do we need to change this model? Just now, Professor Lau Chi-Pang made a good point. If we make it free of charge for some of the time slot of Tai Lam Tunnel, and if you are going to charge motorists, it will be very difficult. That is because if you charge less in Tai Lam Tunnel for a peak time slot, then the public will have the expectation that you will make it free of charge in the future. The result would be the Tai Lam Tunnel would be very congested. And that is against our original intent. That's exactly why we need to think out of the box. We need to tread very cautiously. We need to be careful. We shouldn't just focus on what is good right in front of us. The Secretary has a power to make minor adjustments. Upon the passage of the bill, the administration will have to keep a close watch on the situation. So will the public. When there are appropriate opportunities, the administration should make bold moves to make adjustments. Last year, I already said whether public buses, goods, vehicles, and so on. Well, I think you should make adjustments to the tolls for the classes of vehicles that make the most economic contributions to Hong Kong. For other classes of vehicles, we can leave it until later on. As Mr. Dominic Lee said, we are facing a massive fiscal deficit. According to Mr. Michael TIEN, the government will receive less. But I think we should charge tolls that we should charge. If we charge less, the members of the public will have to pay more in other areas. government expenditure is fixed. If we charge less in tunnel tolls, then the public will have to pay more in other areas. It's just like a balance. So in our discussion of this topic today, we need to take a balanced view. Thank you.
周浩鼎議員。
Mr. Holden Chow. President, I speak in support of the Road Tunnels Government Amendment Bill 2024, that is the government proposal. Earlier, DAB proposed to lower the tolls at the Thailand Tunnel to ensure smooth traffic at the tunnel. The government has listened to our views and they made use of their computing model to come up with the current proposal. I believe the government has taken on board DAB's views when coming up with this proposal. For example, the non-peak period is longer than the original proposal, allowing more private cars to use the tunnel during off-peak hours. I believe the government is making this first move only. I, as a representative of the new territories northwest, I hope we can divert traffic from the Two Moon Road and at the same time make sure that there won't be serious congestion in Yuen Long. I think we need to adopt a balanced approach. As we discussed with the government about this, I heard justifications from the government about this proposal. I think 6 months later, the government will have to review this toll plan, and based on the actual situation, the government can make adjustments. So I speak in support of the government's toll plan. I understand that Mr. Michael TIEN has proposed an amendment. I thank Mr. TIEN for allowing us to have a chance to have a further discussion on this. However, I am against his proposal. Some may wonder why I oppose to Mr. TIEN's plan, because I support further cuts to the tunnel tolls. As I said, we previously had a discussion with the government about the toll plan, and after we raised our views, the government looked into its model. You may have questions or doubts about the government's data, but the government did spend time with us on the discussion, and it took time to come up with a model. And based on different factors, the government came up with this current toll plan for all of us to consider. I think it is safe that the government has gone through all these process before coming up with this proposal. This current plan may be different from the original proposal of the government. We have to first consider that traffic could be diverted through this toll plan, and at the same time, Yuen Long residents won't see serious traffic congestion. Again, we have to strike a balance. Should we accept Mr. TIEN's amendment or the government toll plan? I will pick the government's proposal. It is because the government did spend time on studying the model before coming up with this proposal. As for Mr. TIEN's amendment, I'm not sure whether his plan would work. But on the other hand, the government did promise that it would review the toll levels, and based on the actual situation, it would adjust the tolls. We shouldn't jump ahead and adjust the tolls now because there might be risks. I am a conservative. you can go to DeepSeek and check for the definition of conservative. It means that in face of unforeseen risks, you have to deal with them carefully, because if you don't tread carefully, there might be bigger risks or uncertainties. So we have to be careful. This is what I mean by being a conservative. Many politicians around the world are conservatives. There are no negative connotations behind that. So this is how I look at this toll plan. I, as a member of the DAB, well, I speak in support of this proposal, and you have to know that by making a vote, you are making a direct impact to the toll levels. So I have to be extra careful. I have to make sure that there is a balance. I'd rather opt for the government's toll plan first, and we can review the toll levels after the plan is implemented for a while. On the point about fiscal deficit, well, there were discussions about slashing the tolls significantly, and back then there wasn't such a serious fiscal deficit. The situation now is different. We all care about the deficit situation, and we've been talking about removing the $2 fare scheme. I always say that the $2 scheme is a benefit for our elderly people, so we should keep the scheme and slash the other schemes instead. Now, this toll plan is a good example. Every year, the government will earn a revenue of 700 million by charging these tolls. And if we stick to the original proposal, it will earn 600 million less. So I feel that we should stick to this toll plan instead of slashing the $2 scheme. There are sufficient justifications why we should support the government plan. However, I do thank Mr. Michael TIEN for raising the amendment so that we can have a further discussion of this. However, I am against Mr. TIEN's plan.
Does any other member wish to speak? If not, I now call upon the Secretary for Transport and Logistics to reply. Then the debate will come to a close. Secretary. President, the government will take over the Tai Lam Tunnel on the 31st of May. We will use the opportunity to suitably lower toll levels and answer members' call for a time-varying toll plan to optimize the use of tunnel capacity. In meeting public expectations of lower toll levels, we have considered traffic management and the financial sustainability of tunnel operation. To this end, the government introduced the Road Tunnels Government Amendment Bill 2024 in December last year, seeking to provide for the takeover and for toll level of the tunnel. First of all, I'd like to thank the chairman of the Bills Committee, Dr. Ben Chan, and committee members, as well as the electrical secretariat, for the hard work they have put in to ensure that the scrutiny was conducted smoothly. I have attended Bills Committee meetings to discuss with members. I also thank members who have spoken for their support and their valuable views. We had an in-depth discussion during the Bills Committee meetings. In the committee and just now, members suggested that the government should explain clearly the considerations for whether to charge tolls and what level to charge. The government will comprehensively consider all factors, including traffic management needs and affordability of the public. On the basis of cost recovery, if the tolls charged can support effective traffic management, we will consider further adjusting the level. In addition, we will consider the principles of public transport and efficiency first. The toll level proposal was made based on these factors and on scientific traffic model projection. That's how we have come up with the Tai Lam Tunnel toll plans. The proposal aims to meet these goals. 1. To ensure smooth traffic flow at Tai Lam Tunnel. It is because this tunnel affects the commute of 1 million residents in Yuen Long and the North District. It is not just about transport infrastructure in the area. At the same time, it is also the artery leading to land control points, the airport, and the container terminal for commercial vehicles. The lower tolls will make better use of the Tai Lam Tunnel to alleviate the busy traffic of its alternative routes, that is, Two Moon Road and Tolo Highway. 2. To ensure smooth public transport services through the Tai Lam Tunnel. So we will be able to serve more members of the public who use public transport. 3. To apply the efficiency first principle and suitably lower the tolls to attract commercial vehicles while keeping the Tai Lam Tunnel's function as a logistic artery in order to support the operation and development of the transport trade. And 4. To charge reasonable tolls for the management of the tunnel, which requires substantial resources. As members have reminded us, I have come to the council together with my team. Members mentioned communication and discussion. The Transport Department had an in-depth discussion with the council. The government has been collecting views from stakeholders over more than half a year. We thank members for their support on the goals of keeping the tunnel traffic smooth, alleviating busy traffic in Two Moon Road, and the application of the user pay principle to maintain the operation of the tunnel. The time-varying toll plan in the bill has fully reflected the views of members and stakeholders, as well as the policy considerations of the government in a bid to strike a balance. We have already taken into account different views. In setting the toll levels, we have used a large amount of data to analyze different charging scenarios. Apart from that, we have also considered the current transportation needs of residents and the logistic trade and future additional transportation needs from the development of the Northern Metropolis, population growth in NT-Northwest, and increased economic activities in Hong Kong. The toll levels of all classes of vehicles will be significantly reduced. The main ones are 1. For private cars, $45 during peak time, $30 during normal time, and $18 during non-peak. A reduction rate between 22% and 69% compared with the current toll. In other words, we have already cut tolls where we have to. The peak time slot was taken into account the overall flow of north and southbound traffic in the NT. Some members have commented on the start and end time of peak slots. For example, Mr. Holden Chow just now spoke on this. We have endeavored to incorporate these views to shorten the duration as far as practicable. The total morning and evening peak time amount to only 4 hours 15 minutes, accounting for less than 18% of a day. The toll for private cars on Sundays and public holidays is a uniform rate of $18, which is the lowest toll of a non-peak time slot. For commercial vehicles such as goods vehicles and buses, an all-day uniform toll of $43, registering a more significant reduction that ranges from 33% to 80% to attract commercial vehicles to use the Tai Lam Tunnel to shorten travel distance and time, as well as save on fuel. We thank Mr. Frankie Yik or other members from the transportation trade. Thank you for building a platform for us to collect views from the industry. That's how we can take into account the actual situation as well as views from stakeholders. Taxis and all the uniform rate of $28, a 52% reduction. This helps to attract passengers to use the Tai Lam Tunnel and the operation of the taxi trade. In relation to expected impact on traffic, we expect that as vehicles will switch to the Tai Lam Tunnel, its carrying capacity will be fully used, but traffic will stay smooth. That is our goal. In other words, volume to capacity ratio will be maintained at 1. Traffic during peak on Tuen Mun Road will be alleviated. In the morning, for instance, we hope to cut the traffic volume by 5% for the traffic flow to the urban area in the morning, or 300 vehicle trips is expected. To commuters using Tuen Mun Road, they will see the results. Some members suggested a further reduction for commercial vehicles. The reduction of tolls for commercial vehicles is already 33 to 80%. Just now, Professor Lau Chi-Pang mentioned he is a frequent commuter between the NT and the urban area. As we analyzed during Bills committee meetings, Tai Lam Tunnel has fewer bends, fewer uphill areas, and is shorter as well. Using the Tai Lam Tunnel as an example, for a medium goods vehicle traveling from Yuen Long Town Center to Tsuen Wan, such a vehicle can save 10 km in distance. The save of at least $59 in fuel offsets the toll with a cut in traveling time by over 10 minutes. We believe more drivers from areas near Yuen Long Town Center, Pat Hung and Kam Tin will switch to Tai Lam Tunnel to go to Tsuen Wan and Kowloon. Some members suggest further reducing the tolls for private cars, or using non-peak time slots to replace peak time slots. Daytime traffic volume is indeed more intense than peak time slots. With population growth in the North Metropolis development and more frequent economic activities, we expect that the traffic volume of the Tai Lam Tunnel for all time slots will increase. Well, I'd say we are adopting a cautious approach in setting tolls for peak time slots. As for the toll of non-peak time, the proposed level is a cost price. We believe that the government's proposed toll plan will benefit all stakeholders. The lower tolls will draw more traffic to the Tai Lam Tunnel, which improves traffic flow in the Tuen Mun Road. The public have more flexibility in planning their routes. Taxis and goods vehicles will see a marked drop in toll expenditure, helping with operation and competitiveness. According to members, they hope that we will conduct frequent reviews. The Commissioner for Transport can take into account traffic situations, make minor adjustments in relation to time slots and tolls. We will keep a close watch on traffic conditions. We'll closely monitor the actual situation and review tunnel tolls. When there are new infrastructures, say Route 11, the government would then be in a better position to comprehensively review toll levels, including those of the Tai Lam Tunnel. We will discuss with members when the time comes. I understand Mr. Lau Kwok Fan, Mr. Gary Zhang, or Mr. Michael TIEN, you all know well demands from the community, and you want us to cut the tolls as much as we can. Mr. Lau Kwok Fan just now said that the proof of the pudding is in the eating. The Transport Department will have to take into account figures for a year to conduct a review. In Tai Lam Tunnel, we need to expedite our work. We need to be more proactive. And I do want to move as fast as we can. Let's not wait for one more year when my colleague is right next to me. He's heard me loud and clear. Now we are preparing for the takeover. This includes the implementation of e-toll for a seamless transition after the current franchise expires. After the takeover, we will remove all toll booths to free up space for improving bus interchange services. Just now, Dr. Ben Chen mentioned park and ride and whether we can do more in relation to modern transportation interchange hub. In our strategic studies, we are planning to use the principle of one site, multiple use to plan our modern transportation interchange hub. And we hope to provide park and ride facilities in the North Metropolis. The Bills Committee in general agree with the government's policy objective of lowering tolls to regulate traffic, to keep traffic smooth at the Tai Lam Tunnel and to ease pressure on the Tuen Mun Road. As I mentioned earlier, the government has actively responded to members' views. I'd like to take this opportunity to have a dialogue with Mr. Michael TIEN. In a moment, we will also move on to a debate on CSA. Mr. Michael TIEN proposes amendments to overhaul the government's proposal in relation to all classes of vehicles. The amendments include toll-free use outside peak hours for all classes of vehicles except taxis, TVTs for commercial vehicles, and different tolls for different travel directions. The government opposes Mr. Michael TIEN's amendments. The reason is simple. They are not in line with the government's overall consideration and will cause traffic congestion at the Tai Lam Tunnel. They run counter to the all-day uniform toll supported by the transport trade and will cause a deficit and long-term financial burden on the tunnel's operation. More importantly, this committee stage amendment will cause a significant impact on our discussion, and it affects how we strike a balance. President, the government is alive to the public expectation for toll reductions. However, it has to be handled with extra caution in a bid to balance the different needs in traffic management without causing congestions. I agree with members on taking a holistic transportation approach. We need to consider the overall transportation layout. This is very important. I sincerely ask members to consider the overall social benefits, including the interests of public transportation users, and support the government's proposals. Traffic rationalization among 3 road harbor crossings was implemented in 2018. There were 3 main factors. 1, we take a science-based approach. We use technologies to achieve breakthroughs, as Mr. Gary Zhang mentioned. 2, our team offer explanations to the public. We build cohesion. That's why during the Bills Committee meetings, our proposals were met with consensus. 3, we prove our proposals. Traffic rationalization among 3 road harbor crossings is an example. The traffic model has been proven. We give confidence to the public. I hope that we will garner support from members so that we can achieve our policy objective as soon as possible, and we will make further enhancement. I so submit. Thank you, President.
You say
I now put the question to you that the Road Tunnels Government Amendment Bill 2024 be read the second time. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Mr. Michael TIEN claims division. The bell will ring for 1 minute.
開始表決。
Will members please proceed to vote? Will members please check their votes? If there are no curious, voting shall now stop and the result will be displayed. Members present 83, in favor 81, abstention 1. As the question is agreed by a majority of each of the two groups of members present, I declare the motion passed. Road Tunnels Government Amendment Bill 2020